Hello, everyone. It's me, Windfall, Mickle, and
Mick,
Numbers. We're pretty much just going to be going over a list of topics that we kind of want to talk about. This isn't entirely focused on like balance discussion. It's just talking about certain spells. A bit of it is balance discussion. Some of it is a little bit of community discussion. But overall, it's just that it's not. This isn't like tiers or anything like that.
no, just a general duelists podcast type deal almost.
We can actually have a discussion this time.
Speaking of duelists, I got Order Shiso finally. It's cool. Finally got my second order.
That's awesome.
Okay, so
Congrats.
first up though, let's see. How much damage do you guys think a deck should reasonably be doing? First, we can talk about like in our current meta, how much damage does your deck need to be doing to be competitive? Second off, we should probably talk about how much we think it should be after we patch it once everything gets balanced out.
I
So
think
first
those,
off, current patch, how much do y'all think?
minimum
Damage wise.
30s, but I do know that not every deck needs a combo. We had Season 1 Collins Snowfall Queen that doesn't run Snowfall, and Shell's current Gunner deck, which doesn't combo but is very consistent. I think like if you could do like 30 or 40 per shuffle, and if you get enough cards in, you should be if you get like at least more than half your cards in, you should be okay.
I think that's a good way to look at it. Like if you're landing your hits, how many shuffles it takes.
There's also like another like opposite aspect of this is like when is too much damage.
Yeah, very much so. What are your thoughts, Windfall, currently on what kind of seems like a good benchmark for combo damage?
So for this, I think consistency is a big factor and what the benchmark for damage should be because like here's the thing is that, like for me, I think that trying to prevent like combos to do like 50 60 damage from existing is pretty much impossible, like it's going to happen. It's more of a concern about whether these combos are very replicable in an actual match, right? So I think for consistent damage, we really should be not looking at any more than about like 30 to 40. Um, for something that you can get like kind of be able to get somewhat consistently. This isn't what I mean by this is that, like if someone has
You
a
can high
strategy,
roll more.
like if somebody has a strategy, it does 30 to 40, but usually these would have like a major drawback, like it dies to like tile denial or something like that. That's usually the case right now. Usually stuff like this dies to tile denial. Before with Perilla, she didn't just die to tile denial, so that's when it kind of became a problem. Is that like there wasn't great counterplay for it.
There,
Yeah.
The real problem with Perla at that all along at that time is just that you couldn't fight back.
no, because of weapon,
Yeah.
because of webs. She was doing all this and completely removing your ability to fight back. It was crazy. That's definitely when it becomes a little bit too excessive.
It's also why a
Um,
lot of people like think it's just a pull, but in reality, she's only able to do this because she's so safe.
mhm. Speaking of which, current Shiso is doing not quite as much damage, but very comparable. It's not far off from how much damage Frillo was hitting for. Do we think that is problematic, or is it fine because he doesn't have web and he's limited with his ammo, so he has like factors holding him back?
So for I'm assuming you're talking about Shizo in the base game, right? Not the PvP.
Live, yes, base game, live patch.
Yeah.
For
So
example, Xaver's deck is Flurry, Push Slash, Air Rifle, Backstab, Dark Grasp, Ember, Knife, Thunder. That's more or less what you can expect from like a high roll Shiso deck.
yeah. So
Yeah, something along those lines.
this version, I do see like live patch Flurry Shizo as an issue because he is definitely able to like kind of very consistently hit you for like an absurd amount of damage, and it is a bit more consistent than I would definitely like it to be because he's over the 40 damage threshold at this point for consistent damage. Um, and although I don't think he's anywhere near quite as oppressive as Perilla, because at least you can still play offense against Shizo, and you're not like
Mhm.
completely shut down by webs, and then you can't touch front ever without a web
Yeah.
being in the way and things like that. But regardless, I still think that the damage is a bit too high for how consistent it is, and then the fact that flurry is honestly a pretty good thing to be able to hit by itself. You can walk into it, covers an entire row. It's a hit scan, and it's absurdly fast. And then
Well, I
obviously it
think like
combos into and out of like his gun, like
Everything.
yeah. So he can pretty much
I guess
just
like devil's
take
advocate on
anything to
this
flurry
though.
and then take you to a high amount of damage if he has the spells in his deck still for the cycle.
Mm.
So numbers, I
You
do
want
want
to
to hear your take on this. Real quick, I think I do want to go over the big changes that are going on the PBE that are really impactful for standard Shiso decks. The big ones are the Whirl nerfs because Whirl doesn't combo into Walk push Slash anymore. Whirl doesn't combo into Minigun anymore. And Thunder no longer combos into Flurry, which used to work. So
into
Shiso
walk.
will be getting hit very hard in terms of his combo consistency on the beta. Yeah, numbers, as you were saying.
Yeah, if you want my opinion, I think this deck is sacky as shit.
Yeah?
and I mean, like I fought against like JP Shisos. They're really good at it, but it's like at a certain point, it's like you can basically like treat each card as like its own single point of interaction in which like basically you can always respond. It's like if they say knife, I think at a certain point I can pretty much pinpoint where exactly they cast Dark Grasp. It's always at the starting position. They somehow, for whatever reason, it's always cast there. It doesn't matter who it is. And then when it comes to like flurry, knife, minigun, you stand at one of the top or bottom rows. They walk to immediately cast it, which basically means you can dodge a reaction. And it's like this is and that's and those are like basically his only real ways of confirming he's not going to be eagle eyeing you because he doesn't run any tower. He's not running Tile Denial in this kind of deck.
I
So
think
it's
he
like,
definitely can Eagle Eye still, just by nature of the fact that you have to play in a very specific way and range to avoid him, which kind of lets him get those reads. He has like inherent tile denial just by threatening you, rather than putting a claw trap down or breaking a tile. He denies tiles just by nature of like, oh, you can't go there
that's
because then
that's
he could whirl you
pressure,
and do
right? It's very
50.
different. But
I think that still lets you get
it's
those
like,
like
but it's also like
kind
why I
of.
wanted to talk about the damage, right? Because like I don't think I feel like we can reach a situation where this deck can exist and we can still like beat it fair and square. Like if, for example, like a lot of these cards just die to Wrecking Ball.
Yeah, Wrecking Ball is definitely pretty good against it,
And in
but
this
he's
and
got a
Wrecking
lot
Ball
of stuff
doesn't
that
apply
works
anymore.
around with it.
Yeah, but it's like
I've yet to run into any deck that really feels like it shuts it down. Um, I
I don't
think
think you need to though. You just need something that's like good enough to
yes.
basically stand toe to toe, and then like the players do the rest of it.
I think the best anyone's done versus it so far has been Shull with his gunner. But that kind of goes into he's just been kind of camping me out the entire time. He's been straight line camping me with gunner weapon 1. So if I ever step into his row, he just shoots me. And he's got Paragon to threaten off angle, and he just tries to camp out, and, like win the inevitability war.
Hmm.
But it just feels like it's not the most effective. I think Shiso's probably, at least on live patch, the best character in the game. His neutral, he has good inevitability just through the nature of Flurry being the way it is. and he hits probably the hardest in the game out of consistent damage.
We're talking about 2.74, 2.76 in regards to that.
2.74, 2.74. I
Okay.
don't think he's
Yeah,
the
because
best
Sender Master to
on.
Flurry working is partially
Yes,
why he's
yes,
doing so well.
I agree, and I think him losing how effective it is, along with stuff like that. I think he also loses point blank minigun flurry. So you can't do set your mass minigun into flurry as effectively. So there's
Mm,
definitely some big things that hurt him on the live or on the beta. So I don't want to give the impression I think he's broken on the beta still,
hmm.
but I do think he's the best character on live patch currently. And I think a big thing is the damage, even though his neutral isn't all that because of um his bullets. Like the fact that he can just kind of poke away at you with his weapon or his spells until eventually he does find that hit, and you can't engage reliably because you might just die if you get hit. So you're kind of forced to play passive against him, and then he just hits you twice and you die. And I think any deck that's consistently killing you in 2 hits is probably going to be problematic.
Hmm.
I think that's
I
a good standard,
kind of wonder about
probably.
that.
If it's killing you in two
I
hits,
actually kind of
it's
wonder about
probably a
killing.
problem.
I kind of wonder if two touch is really that bad because like at a certain point every character is going to do that. I think Harissa probably can do that already at this point. Like she's got a lot more links. She's able to run heavier spells. Okay, Kinetic Wave got hit, but even then,
I think
I feel like
without
Harissa currently, yeah, go for it.
okay, without 8 damage K wave and with like nerf lasso, I don't think that she's quite at the like same level of two touch potential because like before she did have two touch potential if you were running something more
Specifically
similar to
Yuki's deck.
Yuki's list with
what
sacrifice
I've
lasso
seen
double
people
team
do is just
kinetic wave.
do. I'm just seeing people do Darka Sacrifice, and what they do with Sacrifice, they move back and forth. So they basically stay 2 away after Dark Grasp after Dark Grasp fully hits, so then they can primer into whatever.
Mm.
So basically, it's like
Yeah,
a
no, it
trade
makes
for them.
sense. It still hits hard.
But yeah,
I
that's
just don't feel like it hits quite as hard,
Hmm.
on live. I definitely
at
don't
least
think
in
that
my
she still has
experience
that.
versus it. Yeah, that's what I mean.
We do need more R&D. Not that we're going to get enough of it.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I think two touch probably shouldn't be a thing that happens consistently regardless. I think that's something we as a community should try to avoid, even if sometimes it might happen. We should probably try to keep it to a minimum.
Oh, I mean, like on one hand, yeah, but it's like on the other hand, it's like I just feel like we're going to get there. It's not even going to be that hard. I feel like I remember seeing like some of the stuff Sargly has been doing ever since Perla got nerfed, and it's like wow, it's like not, she basically can just keep. She'll find a way. She'll find a way to two touch, no problem.
What a character.
And then like
I mean,
Saffron is
I
also
do
like
agree.
combo glue mania, Shredder. Well, she does a lot of damage at the cost of like barely, like very punishable neutral. Yeah, get that.
Very easily denied by tile denial.
Yeah, but
But
then
yeah,
that's also the
speaking
thing.
of all
Like
this stuff,
Caldena will probably kill a lot of these builds.
yeah, that's one big thing. That's what stops them from being oppressive balance wise.
Hmm.
Speaking of balance, at what point do we think a spell, weapon, character, whatever becomes nerfable? At what point do we think we should probably look into changing something?
Um, Windfall you first, I guess.
All right,
If you have any
so
idea.
for me, like when I'm thinking, it's like okay, this spell is probably an issue. First I need to see like some kind of sign that the spell is problematic because here's how it works, right? First thing that happens when you see a spell, it's out there, it's getting used, by whoever, right? And it seems strong. First thing that should happen is okay, what can I do against this spell? what counterplay options are available against the spell. Can I find a way to reliably dodge it? Can I shield it? Can I counter hit them out of the spell? Or if their strategy is based around the spell, can I outpace them? And that's kind of, the main thing. If none of these work to any effective degree, then I think that's kind of when it's just like, okay, is this spell a bit too strong? Is the counterplay unreasonable? And then I think that the other case where we might nerf a spell, if it's, just this wouldn't really be the same kind of nerf, I guess. But if a spell is just, like RNG or some crap like that, where it adds like RNG aspects to the game, or the spell is visually inaccurate, or there's some kind of non, like, I guess, like
some kind of meta issue with it.
some kind of issue that's not related to necessarily how the spell performs, but like how it's like designed.
More game design sense. Rather than game balance,
where blurry thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the primary criteria is just the spell needs to show signs of overperformance and the counterplay being ineffective in order for a nerf to kind of be justifiable, I think.
I think that's a great way to put it. So when I think of something I think's broken, it's very frequent that I see something and I'm like, oh, that's kind of stupid. And I think everyone does that. Some people like immediately think, oh, that's stupid, yada, yada, yada. But I don't think that necessarily wants nerfs. I don't think it really gets to the point where it needs nerfs until it reaches a point where like the strong players aren't able to find any real counterplay. Like if I'm running it against top players who are trying to lab counterplay and just nothing's clicking, nothing's working, it still feels too oppressive. That's when it's probably getting to the point where it's an issue. Because there's a lot of stuff that can feel really strong. And like I'll run decks and I'll think they're good. And then I'll run them into like someone like Shoal. And I'll be like, oh, I'm straight deleting this deck because it's unviable at top level. It just only works if they're not doing the proper counterplay. And once they are, it just falls apart. Once stuff doesn't just fall apart versus proper counterplay and stays being a little too oppressive, that's when I think it becomes really problematic.
And at the same time, it's strange because then sometimes it's like, well, at a certain point, it's like, well, maybe we just are. It's our main, and we trained it a lot more than others, and it's like, well, if we're doing well with it, does that mean that everything we do has to be nerfed? Because we're obviously going to be performing better than most people out there. But even like regarding like balancing, it doesn't necessarily have to be about top players. It's that both players, one person has a really strong deck, the other person is trying to do counterplay. The important part is that both are learning how each other work. Learning how each other works, they don't just get knowledge checked. But even after like all the trained skill sets, and then the deck that's trying to be the deck that they're trying to counter is still doing a lot more than well, and that's when we actually have the problem. But it's like it takes a while to really get there, unless because we don't have that many people playing the game all at once.
Yeah, I think the common sentiment amongst all of our opinions is that it becomes a problem when it's counterplay resistant. When what should be proper counterplay just isn't working and isn't effective at dealing with it. And I'm not saying it's like, oh, well, this guy still is winning matches even though I'm doing good counterplay, because there's obviously like people are going to outplay you, stuff like that. Stuff can be good. But when it feels oppressive still after that point, that's when it starts getting to a point where we need to look at it. I think there's a very big problem right now of people looking at stuff that they're not properly counterplaying and calling for nerfs immediately, as opposed to learning the more in-depth counterplay. And it's resulted this has happened time and time again for a long time. And it's resulted in a lot of things getting nerfed or hit much harder than they need to, or when they don't need hit at all.
I
Would you
definitely
say
agree with
Perla
that.
fits in that criteria?
Take it one step back. Numbers, you first.
Would you say Perla fits that criteria? Like, she was definitely overpowered, but yet she was over nerfed by quite a lot.
I definitely think she was over nerfed in terms of how we handled it, but I think she 100,000% hit the criteria of needing nerfed.
Mm.
I'm more so talking about the situations where like stuff either needs a very minor adjustment or doesn't need adjusted at all, and people just need to get better against it. Krilla was in a situation, I think, where she pretty much hit every mark of just being ridiculous. She felt very overpowered at a glance. The deck seems very strong. You know, it passes the eyeball test at being broken by doing 60 damage combos consistently. It's very oppressive if you don't know how to deal with it to the point where you can't, you're just not allowed to play the game unless you have tens of hours practicing against the matchup. And even when you do learn it super in depth, it's still too oppressive. You're still not able to keep up with it at any level of play. It's to the point where it was just completely dominant. And I think that's again when we start getting to the point where yeah, it's probably a bit much.
I think it also
Um
gets scary when it's like in order to just like have something functional, you need to acknowledge this character exists and then play around it.
yes,
But
yeah.
I don't think like we
It
ever
becomes
had like
over
a competitive.
centralizing.
The only time we could think of a competitive scene where it's like we had something that could really put that to the test was, I think it was like a Sunday shuffle. I wasn't there, but I know the finals was Prep running a very specific counter deck to try and handle you. She almost did it, but then like after you guys like dueled over and over in the future, it just fell apart because it just didn't work well enough because Perry
Yeah.
could outplay it.
I
But yeah, that's
remember
why.
that she actually beat me in losers, or she sent me to losers.
Ooh.
And I ended up going down 2-0 in grands in the reset. No, in the yeah. But I just stuck it out with Frilla because I was like, this character's broken. I know I just need to play better. And I ended up winning because that was accurate. The issue was that was one of those things where it worked at the start, but then once I kind of learned the counterplay, it stopped being as effective.
Mm.
Um, and I think that's another thing where like if they can just counterplay it back way more effectively, the counterplay is not real at that point. It's just a temporary band-aid fix.
Mm. That's the thing,
Um,
like how other people can potentially exhibit this counterplay interaction because like people aren't because when people go find games with each other, they're not going to be building around you because because they both it's hard to contact you in the first place, but also like whether people will play parry at all is another thing. I It's not like we have like 50% of people you play in queue is going to be parry or terrible players. That's not how the Discord fighter works.
no, you're definitely correct there. Windfall, do you have any examples that you can think of stuff that got nerfed as a result of people just kind of jumping on the bandwagon with complaints without actually labbing their stuff, doing their counterplay? Stuff getting hit a little too early in its lifespan.
Yeah, actually, I think this is definitely something I think that we have seen with some 3-cost spells. Um, and I think a good example is probably Collapse. I think Collapse before wasn't really that bad as people were saying it was. Because Collapse, what does it do? Like 8 damage, 7
And it
damage,
does
Yes.
7 damage now. It used to deal
and
5.
just like yes, it can kind of combo start, but like it's a 3-cost 8 damage combo start. So I mean that's not really all
And it's
that, you
also they
know.
have to be at the front or it's not going to work as
Yeah, and then
effectively.
you have to be at the front in order to really make it effective. And here's the thing, right? When I know that you have to be at the front to cast this, I can do a lot with that. And now on top of the fact that I can abuse your positioning to cast the spell, I can also just react to it and dodge because the startup got increased, right? And I believe didn't I believe Collapse got nerfed during Eden Star League season 1. I think it was
I
during
think
that
like
cuz I remember
yeah.
fighting Dragon and Eden Star League in the midst of all these collapse complaints, and I beat him on it because I just camped it with Dread. I just sat in the bottom 2 columns and didn't let him cast it when he wanted
Probably,
to,
yeah.
and he would just get. I'm just like I'm counter hitting you with either Garnet Flare or Claw Swipe, but you're not gonna cast. You're not gonna get away with
This spell is
casting
not
us all the
coming
time.
out. No.
So
There,
it's
there's two changes that come to mind on why it's just stopped working. Is that startup 20. Well, it used to be. Wait, no, we're talking about like how it got nerfed despite not being performing that well in the first place, right?
yes.
It was something we're talking about how it didn't need nerfed,
Oh yeah.
but it got hit to the point where it's basically not used anymore.
Because there's two nerfs that happened to. One of it is proper visual clarity that was given. It needed to happen because I think at the time it was like it didn't really properly show when exactly it was going to cave in. So it's like just by virtue of like bad aesthetics of like fading into appearance rather than like showing like when it distinctly appears, you could just you could probably just catch people because it messes with their reaction time. But then also the startup got tuned up, which is like why I guess.
Oh, you know what's
Don't really
a
understand that one.
really good example of I think this happening that this took a
Yeah.
long time I think for this to kind of really show itself, but Root in general
Yeah.
has is such an over nerfed archetype that like
My bad, y'all.
Root has like since day 1 lost to mashing, right? But it took
Yes.
a while for people to figure that out. That Root just straight up loses to mashing options. Cause like back in the day where I got Root nerfed the first time, Invade was like everywhere, right? Everybody was playing Invade back then, I believe. And so, I think it felt a lot worse than it actually was because of that. And now that we're a bit farther ahead, right? And
In the meta, yeah.
yeah, a bit farther ahead in the meta, and everybody knows just like, okay, you're rooted. Unless they immediately have something that they can like really follow up with, like immediately, like true combo out of or something like that. Like you can usually just mash out of a lot of root pressure. You can't really get setups like you could before because the root timer is too short. So like, usually, if you mash, you can kind of just avoid taking any kind of serious amount of damage, unless it's with the root payoff, obviously, with like Strangle or
Yeah.
Vine Pull. Usually in that case, well then you're gonna get hit, right? But even then, mashing still
As a
works
good
sometimes.
example.
Because
Yeah.
like if I'm not in front of you, like if I'm not in a position to immediately punish you off of landing root, you can pretty much mash every time. And if I don't respect your mash, I take damage, right? And it's always been this way, but I feel like people now are definitely and people are doing it now, right?
Yeah.
Which has led to Root not really feeling as strong as it did back in the day. But then the thing is just like, was it ever really that strong to begin with? And I think that it probably wasn't.
I remember Root was definitely back like way back before my time. You got Root nerfed. And there were a bunch of changes to Root around the time a little before Exodus 1. And I ended up running Root in top 8. And a lot of people had already been complaining, but I had switched to Root Shiso for Thistle and kind of just stomped them with it. Root was very invalidating to a few characters at the time, mainly because of the entangle frame data. That was during the patch where Entangle was way too fast. It was like frame 5 or something
No, it's
ridiculous.
frame 8. It's only
That
the
was
root card.
it was frame 8?
Yeah, frame 8.
It was
I
it was
remember.
fast enough to true combo a whirl.
Yep.
How plus was whirl?
World's like plus 10.
Whirl was
So
plus
it'll
oh,
be like gap
okay.
-2. Mm.
Yeah, I remember it was plus enough for that. Or fast enough, but they ended up hitting a lot about root instead of just the entangle stuff. They gutted strangle as well. They hit the damage on a lot of stuff. So it got
What
significantly
did they
worse when
change
it
about
didn't
them?
need to.
I could have sworn nothing changed. I think we just
Vine
got
pool
better and
lost damage,
Vinepull did, but I'm pretty sure that's like
and
almost entirely because you could do Vinepull Dark Matter. I feel like there's no other reason why this got nerfed.
no, Vine pool lost damage.
Windfall getting nerfed was crazy, dude.
Yeah, it was during a patch where no one was even talking about it, and they were just like,
Yeah, it was definitely because of definitely because I did Vinepull into Dark Matter, and that would pop the Dark Matter instantly.
that's really funny. Because I remember they toned down like one of the hits from from 3 to 2.
Yeah, yeah. I don't see any changes to root though. I think it's I've aside from Entangle's frame data going up, I feel like nothing changed about this whatsoever. I guess crack roots
It
got
was
better,
the
but who
entangle frame
cares?
data and
Claw Trap is no. I think Claw
vine
Trap
pool
being the
damage.
same duration as Wrecking Ball was happened a while ago.
But yeah, I think that root definitely did get nerfed when it didn't need to as much as it did. And then everyone actually learning the counterplay has put it in a very not the greatest spot, I think. I was playing Shoal earlier, and every single time I rooted him, he's on gunner, he just presses weapon 1 or weapon 2. He just buffers into a button. I was like, okay, that kind of sucks.
Hmm.
Um that is a good example though of something that definitely got hit when most people weren't exhibiting the proper counterplay. Because now people are, and it's much more under control. Let's see. Have we talked about Flurry yet?
Yeah, we have.
Like Flurry specifically, or did
Oh
we
yeah,
just talk about Shiso?
Flurry's still staggered. It's still 610, 610. I mean, like, there's a reason why you don't design spells like this. But if either of you're hearing this, if you're able to like prevent this issue from happening where Flurry just doesn't match its hit rate, just doesn't match the hit rate of 8888, then by all means try keep working with it. But it's like if not, then it's like it's probably better just go back to 2.60.
Yeah, because like I think at the moment and how it's been for ever since Flurry got buffed, it's just too strong. It's really good
It's more
inevitability
like
and
push
neutral.
slash. It's kind of like how push slash is a staple to me.
Yeah, it's like push slash if it comboed better and lasted longer, and it their entire row, which is just yeah, it was definitely turbo ridiculously broken right when it got buffed, but we've been toning it back again and again and again, hurting its frame data. So now it's like startup 10 or something crazy. But it's still pretty good, and now it's more plus than it's probably intended to be. I saw someone I'm pretty sure it combos in a magic clause now, which is
It's very good on Maple
it
now because you
shouldn't
could
do
do
that.
Flurry Seed Toss Knife or something like that.
Oh, that's delightful.
Honestly,
Yeah, but
Maple is still doing way more work than anyone else is doing just to get their damage.
yes, you're probably correct. But we need to address Flurry. Something needs done. Do you have any suggestions, Windfall? Do you have any thoughts on it? Do you think it's fine or
I think the direction it's going is probably closer to being fine. You know, the startup has been adjusted so that it's not as easy to extend into it out of anything, because like before with how low the startup was, you pretty much could do that, and it's also a hit scan, right? So then it comes out immediately. Um, and as I'm kind of
Under into
fine with it
4-away
being a
will.
strong combo tool.
Or
Like for me, that's fine.
flurry.
I've heard like some people say like, does it still combo into? I heard it combos into Magic Claws or something like that, and so people were just saying just like, oh, that might be a little bit silly or whatever. I think that as long as it's not comboing into anything too insane, it's fine. And I think that the current startup probably is enough.
Yeah, because it's frame 10 now.
I think frame 10 is where it actually feels kind. I could live with it. If this is ignoring the particular bug that needs to be fixed by virtual like design practice. If Flurry ends up like this, it's probably okay. Maybe might I don't
I
maybe
think
might
it's
need
in a
less plus.
fine-ish spot now.
I mean the problem is like you could do Flurry Dot Grasp and that's like everything.
Yeah, if you can do that though, like you can combo. If you couldn't do that, then Flurry isn't comboing. And I do like it being used more. I think it's neat to see more staples.
Flurry
But I
Dot
just
Grasp
think
is
at
probably
release
doing
it was a
better
little bit
than K Wave Lasso.
excessive. Uh, depends which version of Flurry we're talking.
I mean like
K-Wave
well I feel
was
like both.
something.
I feel like both versions. Like even like K-Wave K-Wave is much brickier than Lasso. Much brickier than Flurry. You can't do K-Wave in neutral like you can do with Flurry. And then Flurry also is multi-hit. You get like plenty of time to react to it.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember some
I think
people talk
Flurry's
about like
probably fine as
K-Wave
is
back to
though.
8 damage.
Please don't.
Really?
We
I mean like
just escaped this.
like you put Push Slash and Kinetic Wave next to each other. It's like how is this comparable? I
Because
guess you could
K-Wave
basically make
basically
K-Wave.
is a 0 mana.
You could potentially make
It's
K-Wave
frame
less
2.
plus, less plus, maybe hit maybe in faster interval.
That was my suggestion initially.
Definitely ways, but I don't know if like if people are like willing to overlook the trauma too.
I think we can't take it. We can't just revert it. We just escaped. We just got out.
For me,
I'm
I
not
think
going back.
my issue, like I've opposed 8 damage as well for Kinetic Wave, but I don't necessarily hate or oppose 8 damage Kinetic Wave. I oppose 8 damage Kinetic Wave when Double Team just got almost fully reverted to being 10 damage with
I
most
think it's
of the
actually better.
same benefits that I had before. Like it literally
Wait,
just
is it better than it used
got
to
its
be?
shield stun
It's
back,
better.
right? Like before,
N-
they made it so they're just like, oh,
No,
you
like you
can
can't.
shield
You
dodge.
used to be able to rush in between. You can't even rush in between anymore.
So
That's grand.
yeah, I just with Double Team being 10 damage again and almost fully reverted, I really would not like to see 8 damage Kinetic Wave come back, because I feel like that would just Kinetic Wave Double Team was definitely a problematic spell combo.
It was
And
not a
the
fun meta
previous
to play
patch,
in.
because it was effectively 2 mana for 8 damage and allowed pull characters to consistently output a ridiculous amount of damage. And I think that reviving that purely to bring back 8 damage K Wave is stupid. Like we literally just did this, right? We saw that it was too
And saw how
strong,
much the
so
meta
why would we
opened up.
bring it back? If Double Team didn't
I mean,
exist, I'd be fine with Kinetic Wave going to 8 damage. Obviously.
I guess that's fair, especially given Lasso's nerf now.
would it be better to think of like a high roll payoff rather than like an actual I, it's weird because like Flay isn't just payoff; it's starter too. It feels much more potent.
I think K-Wave was broken because of the characters and spells it worked with. Being as fast as it was in boxing too is also a big factor. Because like Flurry's only frame 10. K-Wave was frame like
Too, but
it
that's like the
was
first
framed
tile.
like 1 or 2. Yeah, but that's what it's like. It's a boxing tool.
No,
That's kind of
I don't think
insane.
anyone ever like lands as a neutral unless if it's like you completely read this guy's mind.
I've seen it landed plenty in neutral. It's like
Hmm.
how you land Chi Weapon 2 in neutral.
Yeah, that's okay. Oh, this is strange. This is so strange.
But
I feel like
I
Lasso
think
being gone is also big.
I
It's
was gonna
not.
say I think Lasso being gone is pretty impactful because it does hurt those high roll decks a lot. Those ones that just
I
fish
mean,
for the Lasso double team
we
K
just we
wave.
just pulled we just cranked the lever all the way to the other side rather than like doing a little bit in between it, like leveraging that. That's
Well,
what
I
it
think
feels like.
initially when it was like completely gutted K wave, I would agree. I think it's in a fine state right now. I think it's ridiculously plus, basically mana even, really fast. It's got enough going for it.
Hmm.
I don't think we need every spell to be broken.
If double team went back to 8, I'd be fine with like 6 damage kinetic wave, which is what I suggested in my feedback
Mm-hmm.
for the current light patch that we have. I suggested just like, okay, put double team at 8, put kinetic wave at 6 damage, and then I don't know, maybe make it hit like
You want to
3 times or
explain how
something.
you do 6 damage
I
by
said,
removing the last hit?
yeah, I said, what is it, 2 damage for each hit. I think it hits 4 times right now. I said make it hit 3 instead, do 2 damage each, which is the same rate of damage, and it's still very plus. I do think you probably lose some stuff. Um,
Nothing too
like some of the
impactful.
stuff that required you to be like really plus, you probably lose that. But it's still
The
but you get to keep some of the damage at least. But right now, like, I don't know if double team is gonna go back down, so I don't really know if kinetic wave can go back up.
I think the patch idea I had in mind was 2 damage, 3 hits, and reduce the hit interval by 1, slow it down. And that keeps all the notable combos. Um, I remember going through a big list and testing a bunch. That keeps all the notable combos
We can
and
you can
reduces the
shield hit
damage.
step.
You can, which is, I think, a great thing. I don't think block strings should be as potent as some of them are. I think true shield break block strings or stuff are probably pretty toxic usually. Like I don't want to K wave or shield a move and then get my shield broken from full by a 1 mana boxing option.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like 1 mana shield breaks is why Sacrifice was stupid.
Sacrifice was pretty
Yeah.
funny. But anyway, we should probably move on to the our
Yeah,
next
you're right.
question.
We can talk about Frost.
Can't build around it.
Yeah,
How
because
much have you guys experimented with Frost? I know, like,
I've
90% of people who definitely have not.
I have on multiple different decks. Before the nerfs, one of the main decks I was messing with was a Frost slash Terrible deck. It's dead now. It's gone. Um, Frost no longer functions in neutral.
Hmm.
The fact that you can shield it just okay, that kind of kills it.
There's a lot of things
Like
about it. It's also like it's not thought out at all. And I think that's what irks me the most.
yeah,
Where do I
I
start?
it just felt like they kind of changed it, and they also killed Windfall's Snowfall deck. The Frost Queen. It's just
Hmm.
gone now.
Oh
It
yeah,
does
the
not
Snowfall
function.
Queen. Yeah. I mean, like first off was Crystal Rifle ramp being weakened significantly, and now this, it's like, no,
It's
it
been
doesn't.
hit time and time again. It's dead. Dead and buried. Yeah, I think
What else
Frost is a
currently
dead
being
archetype currently. The only stupid thing is it breaks your shield if Paragon procs it.
Hmm. I think I think where it becomes really apparent is when you try to build near or around Frost, and that's where it gets really bad. Like here's like first off, if you do frost with web, if you do frost with weapon one, you need to have a plan to be able to break the shield, or you just like wasted so much time trying to apply three stacks just to have it all gone and have to do it all over again. Which means that you need to start up 6 or a faster weapon, have faster attack, which is push slash, backstab. That's it.
Yeah, not much.
Is there anything faster starter than that? I mean, like, you squint hard enough and expect your opponent to hit step forward for whatever reason. You have all the summon, you have some of the summon weapons, but some of
Yeah,
the summon spells. But it's like, have fun coping with that. Yeah,
yeah,
there's
those
really
are
nothing.
very much just not real.
And then it gets even worse if you try thinking like cold medicine as something that Nier should be using because of shield. You now have to. You can't even You can't even do weapon one cold medicine and like get the frame data cold medicine provides. You can't do weapon one cold medicine rage, for example. Like,
That
and then
you used to be
you can't
able
plan. You just can't plan around it really.
as someone who's brought Frost to the highest levels it's seen, what are your thoughts on it currently, Windfall?
So the frost change, honestly, it could have worked, but the issue with the frost change is that the frost change made it shieldable without making any of the necessary adjustments to the spells to account for that, because the entire frost archetype is balanced around the fact that frost procs are strong and unblockable, right? So then we get this change and it makes frost shieldable, and now all of a sudden heat seekers is garbage, because not only is heat seekers bad, people can use heat seekers to proc frost on their shield, eat 5 damage, and then clear stacks off of themselves. That is how bad it is right now. It is
It even do the same thing
so,
as snowfall. Your shield snowfall. No,
yeah.
sorry, not snowfall. Snow cone. Snow cone is now your opponent's combo starter, guaranteed.
So, it's
Yeah,
just
it's pretty bad.
the archetype. And then on top of that, like, frost spells tend to do lower damage on average across the board. So, and this is because, like, they could threaten the unblockable, right? Like, Frost Barrage is pretty pathetic damage for a 2-cost spell. But then once you think about the fact it's like, okay, this procs Frost, it does 9 damage, right? Then, it's a lot stronger, right? It becomes much more threatening and neutral. Like, I remember having that aha moment that Frost Barrage was actually good when nobody thought it was. When I kind of started thinking about it in terms of like, okay, this spell becomes an AoE unblockable, 9 damage the second that my opponent is 2 stacks, right? And that makes it so much better. It's not even funny. Same with Heat Seekers, right? Heat Seekers, all of a sudden, just like, I only need Heat Seekers to Frost for me to get something. And I can also use Heat Seekers to
Become the
ramp up
wild
my
man on
Frost as well.
mistletoe.
So the spells were good because of the unblockable effect. Without the unblockable effect, the spells
They're
are
just
not
nothing.
nearly as good. Like, and then on top of that, another thing is that like shield in general, the entire thing, it's shield always is Frost has always beaten shield, right? Frost has always beaten shield in the past, right? And this aspect could have been kept if the block stun was much easier to work around, but currently it's just not. If you frost proc somebody off angle with the frost spell, you are not getting a punish probably. By the time you walk in front of them and
Oh,
cast
you're almost
something,
definitely not.
they
There's
will
nothing
most
you're
likely be
doing
able to move
there.
out of the way.
Oh,
It
have
is
you guys
very
like tried
difficult.
build around like Deer's frost stun? Like for example,
No.
you could do when you do weapon one when you proc weapon one frost, you can deal. You have like 27. It's plus 27 according to the game in game, which means that's true. You can do weapon one rage, weapon one meteors, weapon one mistletoe into rage into meteors, and stuff like that. But now that you can just shield frost, the opponent can just ruin all that hard work of getting 3 stacks by pushing a button.
Yeah,
It's like you
it's
can't.
just not worth
It's like
running.
how do you build around pressing a button? You don't. You don't build around the opponent just randomly pressing a button out of gut instinct.
Yeah, no, it's way too much right now. It's just bad. They took Frost already generally wasn't great. It wasn't used frequently on many decks. There was only one relevant Frost deck at higher levels.
I should also mention that Frost deck doesn't combo, so any of the combo, so like combo phobes, you gotta realize like this is what you wanted. It's not comboing.
That's really how it
It's
is.
having good neutral. It's playing the game as you would think. What's your problem with it?
Like I've seen people complain about combo, and then I'm just like, well, you nerf the stuff that doesn't combo, so like I don't understand what you want.
Yeah, what changes should we see to fix Frost?
It has to pierce shield. Otherwise, you can never build a
Obviously,
deck
the
that can. You
easiest
can
would
never
be
build
just
around its strengths.
reverting it.
Yeah.
Reverting it, letting it pierce shield again would be the easiest.
You could also push Frost Slash back up to 3. Like, I get that 2 is probably doing it a lot of justice, but it just blends in with the other two cost melees.
I think it's fine as 3. I mean,
I
at
would think
2.
so.
I think a
Probably.
2 mana 2 Frost spell is pretty neat.
Oh yeah, you definitely need to make Snowfall far away instead of 5. There's probably some
Yeah,
other things
it's
you can do, but we can test that. That's what the PB is for.
speaking of the PvE, what are the big points people I'm not in the server, so I'm not sure. What are the big things people have been talking about on there?
Hold on.
People talk a
Then
lot, so
there's a lot.
yeah,
I also
there's so
see
many
35. I
PBE
see like
posts.
I see like several dozens of blocked messages in a single consecutive motion.
I more so meant, are there any big topics, like big things that are getting changed or likely to get changed that I wouldn't be aware of?
I can go quickly check some things that have kind of been like heavily upvoted recently.
I know Spear is something that Ari and Hubsco have been looking into, and I also have the experience to back it up, unlike some people.
Yeah, what are we
And it's like
thinking on Spears?
so far, like one of their biggest proposals is outright deleting Scatter Spear and Swallow Spear, in which I agree.
Why?
Why? Because that is what promotes the cyclical passive gameplay. Any card has one card fully fuel a spear spell. It doesn't intensify the fighting at all. And if you look at all the other spear spells, you have the only passive gain is spear catch, which is basically, which at that point you could treat as like a failsafe in case you don't land any of the other ones. Because in order to get spears outside of spear catch, you need to hit something or cast Jumping
Generally,
Frost.
yeah.
Didn't I say
But
this? Like, I said this
A
in
while
July.
ago, like start of season 2.
I said that. I said remove Scatter Spear, Swallow Spear in July and make Spear generation more interactive. I literally said that pre-season 2, man. You can check the feedback.
You said
It's
that a
literally in
hot
the
minute
feedback
ago.
forum, dude. My post is still there.
yep. And if that you do that, you don't even need to touch Spear Wave. I know,
Why
like
are we touching
Spear
Spear Wave again?
because it's spear. It's related because like if you have the passive spear generation and spear wave, basically what you have is a cyclical gameplay loop where you avoid a fighting the opponent at all costs. Just generate spears and then toss out spear wave, shuffle, do that over and over again until the opponent dies from mental stack.
Yeah, but it's just not good.
I mean, yeah, but it's like the problem with
I feel
spear
like
wave wasn't like it's strong. It's inherently strong because there's counterplay. You can do the counterplay. It's we all know. We three definitely know that. But
I'd
like
be a lot more likely to get behind like changes that hurt the spear archetype in terms of strength if Spear Wave was like too good, but it's kind of not
well, that's
that.
why the suggestion the suggestion of scatter spear and swallow spear is the thing. But in that case, like you won't need to touch spear wave at all. You don't need to give it more startup to cater to. Some people can't. You don't need
I
to
think
do
we
that.
need to buff scatter. I think we need to buff Spear Wave if we did that. Because that would
But
just be nerfing an already mediocre deck. Because I think Spear Wave right now isn't great. And if we just hurt the main Spear Gen options, we just kill it.
Well, did they bring up Did they bring up
So
alternative methods of generating spears? Because when I made the suggestion of removing the spear gen options, or the scatter spear and then whatever the heck spear catch, I wanted to remove those because I wanted to increase spear generation across the board on all of the
not
spear
entirely
spells that were
certain.
generating them. Like besides, that were like generating them like on hit. Like that was my idea. I don't know if that's what they were looking at.
I'm
I
not
think that would be
entirely
cool.
certain. I know for sure that like uh from what I'm looking at like the preview where it's at the part where they basically go over the reasoning and they don't suggest one, so I'm going to assume that what they mean is like what is already possible for spear gen is already enough because you already have the failsafe with just spear catch. That one's staying, and then if you do spear catch and then land any one of the three spear, the ones that catch a spear and hit spells, any one of those, then you have a fully fueled spear wave or perforate.
I feel like that's just operating under the assumption that like
And also you can
spears
guarantee
are
it with
good
summons,
though.
which in that case you have to run a specific kind of character, or either have to spend another card to get that extra spear.
But I think if we like just nerf the spear archetype by killing its two best generating options, we need to give it something. Like,
Hmm.
why would we just flat nerf it without any accommodation when it's not when it's already not good? I think we could just leave. I think it's mostly fine as is, but it is very uninteractive. I think if we do Windfall's suggestion, it's probably fine.
Yeah,
We
it
would
doesn't
have to come up with alternative ways to generate spears if we nerf those.
Hmm. That's more spells that provide spear on hit, maybe more kinds of spells. There's
I
javelin,
think
which
that
is
would be
like a
neat.
niche projectile reaper, which is ultra niche melee. Toxicross is it still gains a spear,
Ultra
right?
niche melee.
Ultra niche melee that you run with once around poison, and transmute, which is transmute. I heard is actually pretty good. It's not that bad, but it's definitely
It's
like
pretty cool right now with
it's
the frame data
weird.
changes.
It's a bit awkward compared to the usual, but you can work with it.
I think people just need to get used to it. It's pretty good now.
Hmm. Yeah.
I saw some neat combo applications it's got.
Hmm. Transmute's in a pretty good state, I think.
I would agree, but I definitely think we can't just hit spear gen in terms of its big ones and then not do anything else. We
Hmm.
either need to leave it as is or give it some accommodations for the nerfs.
I
Because I think just
definitely want to take the
nerfing it would be
accommodations,
bad.
but yeah, that's a good point.
Because like that would take again a mediocre deck and make it into a bad deck,
Hmm.
which I'm not interested in doing. I want to promote more play styles that are good and viable.
Hmm.
Um, give me one sec.
Yeah. Also,
Let's
Windfall,
see.
have you seen
Um,
anything regarding like popular suggestions in PBE?
We still looking at the popular stuff.
Well, that's what we were looking at earlier, right? I just filled it in with spears.
Yeah, spears was one. Um, then Spirit Blaze was one, and then what else? I know
just general spears.
the Heat Seekers and like Frost Barrage buffs. Those are really popular.
Cross
Um,
barrage buffs?
yeah.
I don't know about that.
Hold on.
Frost barrage
I'll
buffs.
grab the screenshot for you and put it in the chat so
I was
that
gonna say I was
you
told
can
about the
see. There it
heat seeker
is.
buff, which sounds neat. Shot hit buffs.
Basically one shot, two frost. Yeah,
Mm,
still prefer the reversion to be honest.
So yeah, more damage on Frost Barrage, and then increase the size to
make it so you don't frame walk it.
yeah, and then the Heat Seekers buff, which would make it do one
Was,
shot
was it
but
two? Yeah,
two frost on hit, which I think
is a very substantial buff.
yeah, I think that'd make Heat Seekers insane because like the second you have Frost on you at that point, then it's just like, all right, you get step slashed, like you're dying.
Bring
Like that's
back
gonna
step
combo.
I don't
missiles.
think it's that bad. By the way, current step missile and step heat seekers give the exact same frame advantage.
Oh, they
I-
do.
just- yeah, they do. It's exactly the same. I've checked.
Okay, well then I stand corrected. Then maybe it wouldn't be that insane because current step missiles is kind of eh.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Very mediocre currently. I've been testing it out a bunch, and I can't for the life of me make it feel strong, which sucks. But
No frame walking frost barrage. I think that's fine. I feel like the fact that it's staggered is already a big detriment in like trying to work around it.
yeah, that's fair.
I mean,
Um,
I'll say in the past, I haven't really had issues with that, but that was the past.
Mhm.
We are not
I mean, like,
in the same state of the game. Frost is not quite the same, so having that in addition to the fact that now you don't even have to freaking move out of the way, you can just straight up shield it, and yeah.
yeah, you don't even have to frame walk it anymore.
though when I'm talking about frost, I feel like I'm thinking about these things even with the on top of the reversion in mind because I still really think the reversion should happen.
Yeah, no, I think we should revert it. I think shield beating Frost is really unhealthy for Frost. It just kills the archetype.
It's
It's
not.
like, oh,
I don't know if unhealthy exactly, but I know it definitely like makes it you can't build around it. It's basically now just an add-on
it
effect.
just kind of makes it bad. Let's see.
There's some. I remember. Oh, there's one thing that I remember hearing from others. It was Power Drain and Stinger. Not necessary together. Just these. I know Stinger definitely was like a concern to some people because it's like sure it's maybe like the airtime may be longer than hit stun itself, but it's like 1 mana homing.
Yeah, but it's
I mean, like
it's
if
whatever.
you
Just
squint hard
move.
enough, it's actually just root support because you do entangle, stinger, combust, and it's unavoidable damage,
I
unavoidable shield
guess
break even. But it's like
it's a
I've
lot
tried
of
it a little bit, but
investment.
it's like someone needs to you basically need to take it to go to races with it. You need to be able to do a lot more. It's
Yeah, I
good.
don't think
It's not
that's.
that bad to have. Stinger though has like a lot of design implications because it's like there's a lot of things Stinger's doing. It's homing. It's homing for 1 mana. The shield part is honestly negligible. You could work around that, and also it creates flames, so it harms it throws shit on the field. So there's actually a lower ground value if it misses.
I
A
guess
lower
So
that's
ground.
fair.
for me,
And then like, you compare it to mistletoe, which has like absolutely no lower bound leniency.
Yeah, there's nothing Mistletoe got going for it right now.
Yeah, it's like you put these two next to each other, and it's like, well, this isn't comparable. You could probably make mistletoe one in that point, which has its own slew of problems.
What were you saying, Windfall?
so we were talking about Stinger, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
for me, I think I've only fought Rooney on Stinger. I think just on Nira, with the Stinger and like the whole flame shenanigans. But like
Yeah.
for me, I haven't really had too many issues fighting Stinger. Um, Usually I can walk around it, and most of the trouble I had in that matchup was because of Nira and not because of Stinger. It's because Nira's W2 is stupid.
Speaking
But
of nearest W2, we all agree it's still stupid, right?
it's
it
Like,
is
it's so hard to
something
interact
definitely
with.
that
It's not even
to it.
funny. But yeah, that
Set
was
uptime on it was like it's cool. I know it lasts for 55 frames because it melts it.
but,
Wait, no, it lasts for 40. I need to check.
but
Need
Windfall,
to check the frame
just
rate
hit her
again.
out of it. Just hit her out of it. It's
yeah.
not mana positive.
Oh
But
yeah,
the
it
freaking
lasts for 40 frames with
you
a
want to
cooldown
hit
of
her
50.
out, but
Needs to
like
be there forever.
it's like you hit her out of it, and then you hit the structure that's in front of your face, and then you get frost proc.
And then you get frosted.
Do
Yeah.
something. But yeah, I didn't really find Stinger, even one mana Stinger, really like too difficult to deal with because at the end of the day, like it's not
This is
exactly
probably the
easy.
only reason to run here, to be frank with you.
Yeah, it's not really too difficult to avoid getting hit by. Obviously, you know, like I guess if you get hit by Entangle, then you know you're kind of in a bad spot. But there's also a lot of other cases where you get hit by Entangle and freaking die.
I think
I don't really think
if I
Stinger's
hit
unique
someone
to
with
that.
my move, I should be able to combo them. So I don't have an issue with with Entangle leading into stuff.
So I think that's okay, and I also I think that's partially what Root was intended for, was to set up homing spells, except that it never worked in the past because people would just
I mean,
dodge half the
There's
damage.
old eruption.
Oh well, yeah, with Old Eruption, and then they patched it out. So because it works.
Oh, I hated Old
Ancient
Eruption.
times.
But I don't think we need to give Stinger the same treatment necessarily.
Stinger's fine.
During Exodus, Root was just a combo package. You didn't even
Yeah,
need a Root.
I sure did do some stuff with that. Yeah, but that was also enabled by Sacrifier, so
Yeah.
being oh so toxic.
All right, I think we should move on to our next talking point.
By the way, what do we? No, before we move on, what do we do with Spike Trap? There's some things I'm thinking of, but I want to hear from you guys first.
Oh,
Just
nearest.
all you need to do, it's very simple. Make it so that if you hit her before they spawn in, they disappear. Once they're down, they're good. But if you hit her while they're still in the air, they despawn. That's all.
Don't know about that
Just
one,
remove the getting counter hit.
I think,
and we're chilling.
So I think either that or potentially adjust how the frost is working with your W2, because like I feel like a lot of the issue, right, is like I have transmute, right? I am holding transmute. Nier throws her freaking W2 at me, right? I cast transmute. I should hit Nier.
I feel like at that point it's like the interaction's on you.
But you know, it's just like I
I think the most annoying thing is like when your opponent procs frost for you, it ruins your frost setup. Like remember how I was talking about like trying to like make use of Nier's frost zone? When that happens, it feels like shit.
I get what you're saying.
You just like you just lose your whole setup, and now you have to do it all over again because your opponent fucked up. It wasn't even your fault. It was.
Well, the thing is that like, what if the Nier isn't building a frost strategy, and then you just frost proc yourself for 5 damage, and then you don't get the punish that you were supposed to get? You know, I casted a piercing spell, right?
I mean, like if you're casting something in the same lane as Nier, I think you're at the same column. If you're casting something at the same row as Nier, I think something is wrong.
I don't think it should be an issue though, like that. And you can do it next to it too, and it still does stuff. Like if you step in, you can do an off-angle step and still get caught.
That's true.
That's a very, very, very frequent interaction.
Because you would probably be trying to do something like a step/move, step plant, and it's like, oh, you get hit by the spike first.
You're trying to step into like, Punisher camping, which is what they tell you to do.
Yeah, like the thing with
and then you get punished
to mind in that case. One of it, well, there's actually 3 things. One of it is definitely increasing the cooldown, but if you for doing so, it's also increases summon HP by 1. So basically, like she has a wide range of like uptime on basically being able to push for offense, but she can't just keep the spikes up forever and play defense because this way the spikes aren't there with her forever. So if we need any numerical values, it's probably like 2-second cooldown and like two health summons or something like that. But then the third one is also to remove the basically spikes only triggering if the owner hits it.
Is that doable?
It's doable. Except for the very last part, maybe not. You might need to add a new check for that.
Well,
but it would be very easy to implement.
Could you use a similar check to what old Amplifier did? Where it did a different response depending on who hit it?
No, the thing was like the old amplifier basically turned itself around depending on which side hit it, so it didn't really.
Oh, it didn't do a different. Okay,
Yeah, it
understood.
basically did the same thing, just different direction.
Yeah, I hope something happens because I hate that. So, what do you all want to talk about next?
Oh, we did. Um,
Our
just-
next point, I believe, was point 5.
0.5.
yeah,
Top level
we have a
play.
list. We had a list so and we could like sort of structure it, but of course we deviate a bit because it's
Top level play in competition is a different game, and I feel like a lot of people don't get that. What I mean by this is that the game plays out a lot different when people are making those such fewer mistakes, are hitting so much harder, and when people are practicing specifically to beat your deck, or people are practicing to beat some popular stuff. It's not like you get away with stuff where you're matchup inexperiencing people because they're gonna learn it.
I think it's better when we can like expect people to learn our strategies.
I agree.
It builds upon it. Basically means like we do more than just plan A. We really unearth everything that we can do that way.
But
Yeah,
think
it's
wonderful.
there's a lot that goes into it and into consistently succeeding at those higher levels that I feel like doesn't get accounted for as much as it could.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's so much more that you have to think about with top level, right? Is because here's the thing, right? Is that I have to go into, the game with the mindset that everyone I'm fighting is cracked. They're insane. Their defense is insane. They hit me and I die, right? So I have to deck build with all of that in mind. I can't have anything in my deck that I don't have a plan to be able to hit, because if there's a way to consistently avoid what I'm throwing out, they will do it. Right?
They're going to do
They're
it.
going to do it, right? And this, you were talking about this earlier. You take a bunch of decks to show and then they die, right? The idea dies there because it can't.
It just doesn't work.
It can't work because he will consistently avoid it. And like I used to. The thing is, like back a while ago, dude, like Papa Gurgle and Show were like my freaking like. I would just deck test on them constantly. Literally, like every strong deck you probably ever see me play has probably been thoroughly tested on those two players specifically, because they've always had good, strong defensive fundamentals. If there's a way to avoid what I'm doing, they will do it. And that is kind of how I've always been able to check. It's like, okay, is what my deck's doing, is it like legit? Will this work against everyone, right? Will the offensive plan for this deck, offensive aspects of it, be able to work against everyone?
Truly,
right? And a ton of testing had to go into these strategies. Like Gunner X and Snowfall, so much testing went into those decks, it's not even funny. Like Gunner, like even to get to the Gunner X part, took so many attempts, right, to get to that variant. And then Snowfall, I remember building around
I remember
and then developing that deck,
phases.
and I would go test it against Show, and he wouldn't want to fight
Snowfall
it.
was your deck?
Because he'd want to fight like Gunner
Yeah,
X.
no. Windfall made that deck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
But I remember like I would go fight
he was a
Shoal,
creator.
and he wouldn't want to fight the deck because he wanted to fight Gunner X. And then I took Snowfall to Alpha of the Alphas 5, and then I won with it. Because I'm just like, here's the thing, right? I took it into that deck.
Didn't you?
Huh?
You won pretty dominantly too, didn't you?
I won
Winter Side and everything.
Yeah. But like the thing is, right, is like I took it in there and I'm like, I'm gonna play this because most people probably don't know the matchup or like aren't as familiar with this as they are with Gunner X, because everybody had fought Gunner X by that point, but not really.
It had the meme image.
Yeah.
Go do a crime.
nobody had had as much experience against Snowfall yet. So I took Snowfall, and then I ended up winning with that. And then Snowfall ended up being an insanely powerful deck down the line, to the point where it has led to the entire Frost Archetype getting completely gutted. Right? Like
you killed like multiple
But
just entire cells.
the thing is, like, the point I'm trying to make here is that this is kind of the level of deck that has to be built to be able to succeed over a long period of time at top level, because people adapt so well, they adapt so fast, and a lot of times it's like there are some times where you're just like the counterplay is kind of like is questionable if it's reasonable, and they're just doing it anyway. Like they're just skilling their way through it.
I think the
Wrecking
problem
Ball,
isn't just like isn't necessary that it lasts long. The idea is that your deck doesn't have an expiry date attached to it.
Exactly.
And I
Yeah,
think
it's
that's
not-
when I feel like when we do make a good deck is when we don't feel like our deck is like if we can only play this deck for so long before the counterplay is too strong and then now it's unplayable. I feel like that's what we really want.
I think I fully agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
But yeah, no, like I had to learn to make my Shredda deck work. I learned the Wrecking Ball in Ragnarok disarms.
Oh yeah, that's so messed
Do you
up.
know how unreasonable it feels to have to disarm Ragnaroks to find hits?
that's hilarious. Right,
Like-
that is so extreme. Right,
Dude, I disarmed Rooney's lockdown the other day,
How?
and it's just like I couldn't tell you because I disarmed one of the corner tiles.
Oh. Think I see.
Yeah, but that's the kind of stuff you have to deal with at top level. Like, if I'm going into Code S and I'm trying to win that week, I have to be prepared for the most insane collection of players known to man. Like, you're throwing Perp, Varia, Shull, Coca, Numbers, Draga, like all these people, and you just have to deal with that. It's like decks, you can't get away with just
I don't even
not
know if it
playing
necessarily
some of
goes
the best
top
decks.
level.
What was
I
that?
mean, like, I'm sorry for constantly talking over you guys. It's a
Oh,
bad
you're
habit
good.
of mine. But it's like I don't even know if it really is top level because at this point it's like I you used to be able to see it's like maybe there's like a top level, there's a casual level, but no, at this point it feels like it's a matter of like whether you're able to look at the opponent in the eyes. Because
Yeah?
yeah, I feel like
In what manner?
it's not that far away to reach to be able to be able to be aware of what the opponent's doing and being able to respond accordingly. And I know anyone can do that. It's just a matter of like stepping back and realizing it.
Yeah,
But
people
it's
can
like
definitely do it, but the issue is not everyone is. So again, like the main point I was trying to get across with this topic of discussion is just there's a lot more prep that goes into it and the standard of what you're bringing in, the quality has to be a lot higher than it was for like a normal tournament to bring to top level play. Like you're going to fight people who are counter decking you better than anyone else ever has in the world. You're going to be fighting people who are absolute masters at what they do and are doing stuff that's just unreasonable to expect. Like the stuff I've seen Shoal pull is just ridiculous. And you just have to find something that can work against that, like that level of just obscene defense. Because otherwise the deck's not real. There's a lot of decks and archetypes that will work up until top level, but you will never see them function at that level of play. Like Spearwave, for example, is a good example. I think it's one of the most powerful decks at like high level. But once you hit top level, it just disappears from use. It's just not a thing because you can't rely on people to make mistakes at that level of play, which just
even when
completely
you
changes how the game
mix up
plays.
stuff and into Spearwave. Guess so.
You can, but it just doesn't. It's just not worth it.
Well, here's the thing
There's
about
just so
that,
much better stuff.
is that
I mean, like I know Varya just says like he literally just tanks it and kills faster.
Yeah, that's
And
what
he
I was about to
does.
say. I'm just like
He just does.
you can set up into it, but at the end of the day, like if you have to spend mana setting up into Spear Wave, which is just gonna net you like 12 damage, right? And you're comboing for like 20 damage, you say, off of that Spear Wave, and then meanwhile, me when it's my turn, and I hit you with the North Wind, and then projectile combo you for like 25,
30.
30, right? Like I'm not working with Spear Wave, which I now have to regenerate those spears in order to be able to get a full
The
cast
try.
again, right? You know, and I don't even have to hit Northwind, right? Like I can just hit anything and be able to go into that. And I feel like that's overlooked. It's just like Spear Wave just gets outpaced at high level, and then the fact that or not high level, my bad, top level. It gets outpaced at top level, and then the fact that top level will also dodge Spear Wave on top of outpacing it is why it does not really succeed at this level of play, is because you cannot rely on people not dodging it anymore, because they will, because they're dumb at the game.
You just have to expect every single person you fight to be
They know
insane.
what they're able to identify what you can do.
And like the thing is, like about like the casting spells to like set up Spear Wave, dude. I fight Spear Wave and they like throw spells at me to add on to mental stack, and my autopilot dodges the Spear Wave anyway. Like it kind of catches me off guard sometimes. I'm like, dang, I did that, right?
No,
like,
it's like
it just once you're
top
in
level,
that
even
mind,
top
once you're in
level
that
autopilot
mindset,
is
dude.
just
Like,
insane.
like sometimes I just dodge it, like even when it doesn't even make sense. I'm just like, how the frick did I just dodge that? And it just happens regularly, right? And I feel
Yeah,
like that's
no,
the kind of stuff you just see at this level of play. Like people are just cracked, man, and they just do stuff regularly. I'm just like, how the frick are they doing this? How are they making this counterplay work? How are they so consistently? How the heck is this guy disarming Claw Trap 100% of the time if I don't
I
put in work to get it to land?
every time I fight
Right?
Shoal, I fought Shoal earlier and I tried Bomb, and he disarmed every single one 2 games in a row. I did not get a single bomb to touch the ground, and I did it every single shuffle, and he just every single one got disarmed. Like it reaches a point where they can basically remove things from play. They're just not
Exactly.
viable anymore.
So it's just there's just a different standard that you have to be working around. It's just like, okay, yeah, if I don't have a
remember when you
plan.
complained about Bomb.
I remember that too, and that everyone got cracked.
Yeah.
And I
But
think another factor though is
yeah.
how hard people prepare specifically for you if you're at that level.
Hmm.
Like Windfall, I'm sure you had to deal with it a bunch. I had to deal with it when I was on Perilla. Like, if you go into a tournament, if you're winning a bunch of stuff, people are going to come in gunning for you. They're going to be ready specifically for you. They're going to have a deck they've prepped for you. Maybe they might. You don't know that. But for example, when I month 1 of Code S Season 2 in ESL, every single person other than Shoal counterdecked me. Every single one. And that's just not something you tend to see happen below top level. People aren't as prepared for the specific players. You have to deal with people gunning for your exact deck. And it just the standards you have to reach are just a lot higher.
And I also want to bring up that like although Shoal did not counter deck you, the amount of
He's done
practice he
so
put
much
in
training
for the counterplay is like he put in an insane amount of practice into that match.
I genuinely of the belief it is the single most anyone has ever practiced a matchup in Duelists in terms of
think so, too.
dedicated practice time. Because I saw how he was always in Brazil Discord reviewing VODs over it. He was asking me for games on the daily. We were grinding for an hour every day, basically. And he was just putting time and time and time and time in. And he was
I
getting
wish we had more of
really
that,
just
honestly.
freakishly good against it. To the point where it's like, it's the same thing you were saying, where like the counterplay that you don't even like consider to be reasonable to expect people to do, they just do it anyways.
Yep.
you're dealing with people that are making the impossible just happen on the regular, and it's like, oh, okay, then I just have to fight that.
Yeah, it's like,
I
well,
was fighting Varia
I gotta change the way I play now.
in one
Also-
session, and
I've
first off,
watched a few of it myself. It makes me wish that we as a whole did this kind of thing more, but also that like you even get like looking at the VOD reviews and like things that they messed up on. It's like it's going down to the point where like you have to fight your own habits.
I
It's like
know
kind of
you have
had
to
me
fight
realize
just
that
the
we
little
don't
tiny
really
things.
do that as much as I thought.
Speaking of habits,
In a
dude,
way.
this has definitely happened a couple of times where like I fought a player and I abused something, and then this happened with Sans and this happened with Varia, right? I remember, I think Sans won Alpha of the Alpha or something, and then he ran into me and we did Thug Finals, and this was when he was running a line C's Tetra, right? And then he tried that against
Yeah,
me and it just didn't work. And like, see, Sans has altered that strategy now to the point where it no longer relies on a line in order to do good amounts of damage. And, you know, like, it actually can function against a queen deck now because of that. Because it no
when it
longer
didn't used
purely
to.
relies on a line. So, you know, like, I have to play against that deck differently because he changed how the way that deck plays in order to get around the weakness that I kind of exploited. And then this happened with Varia, season 1 ESL, right? I counter hit the hell out of Varia in our sets. Like, it was counter hit, counter hit, counter hit. I
You're
was
just
literally just counter
player in
hitting
the
all
world at
freaking
doing
day
that.
long. I got so many
Stepping
invade counter hits, it
stepping
was
in at
not
you
even
is
funny,
such a risk.
right? And then I fought Varia again, like probably like sometime in February, right? And noticed that they play a bit different now and how they choose to approach. And I found it much more difficult in order to get those counter hits. And I'm just like, okay, I now have to adjust to the new way that this person is playing because the old way doesn't work, right? And I think this is
The
something
level
that,
of adaptation is
yeah,
just
just insane levels of adaptation
unbelievable.
from the players. And that's why I think just top level is just so different because you see insane levels of adaptation. You see counterplay taken to the most extreme extents possible, and then deck building also pushed to the furthest that it can go. And that's why I think that top level is just such a different game because, you know, like, I can take volley structure spam and beat a lot of people with it. I could not take that into Code S and win.
No,
It
that's
would
the
not
thing.
happen.
Like,
I would get
I remember
murdered.
doing really well against it.
it's just it's
At least for
just really
personal
rough
counting. Mm.
how good people end up getting. It's very hard to deal with. And I think a lot of people don't give a lot of the top players enough credit for what they're doing and the kind of level of skill they have to put in.
Um,
Alright,
I
we
don't
should move
even know
on.
that as much as it's just like it's so far above that it's hard to even see. It's
I
not like
know.
you're constantly around to show it. We're not
Yeah.
that omnipresent.
We should move on to
So a lot of people don't even realize like this is how far you can really take the game this far.
It's just I think the gap is bigger than a lot of people want to admit.
Like everybody does 50. Everyone can counter hit anything remotely slow. Punishes galore.
Like if you just look at Code S, the caliber of player that's consistently staying in Code S is just so ridiculous to have to deal with that it's almost like the people you'll send good players into Code S and they just won't take any sets because they're fighting people who are just basically unreasonably good at the game that are doing stuff that just shouldn't be happening.
It also has me wondering like what do you bounce around because like
That's a good
it's like
question. That
because
is
like
a really
now that
good
I established
question.
the top level is a different game, it stands to reason to people that then in that case why are we balancing it around do we have to balance everything around it because this is not everybody.
I think we should get to that point a little later because I think we can kind of bring that up in point 7, but we should move on to point 6 for now.
Mm.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
But I do definitely want to get back to that one. That's a really
Yeah, we'll definitely
important
get back to
thing.
that. Yeah.
How do specific players shape the view of their characters? In a sense that like the community's view of a character can very much be changed by one player. I think the best example of this is when we had people putting Maple in A tier after Thistle initially was having her like breakout performances. I
Mm.
saw people calling Maple broken, but Thistle was just
This was just
bodying
getting
everyone.
wrecked, dude. This was
Actually,
There's a
just
fine,
such
there's
a
a fine
different.
line where it's like at a certain point, it's not really the character as much as like the player. I'm
Mhm.
I would it be bragging to say I kind of should have a kind of have
No, you did that
a
with
similar
Terra.
story for that? Yeah, I did that with Terra. That's what I'm thinking.
Like, no,
Terra,
you
people consider Terra to be like one of the worst characters in the game, at least before 2.70.
and then people
I'm still
did,
here.
but anytime I fought your Terra, I was like, this feels stupid.
Mm.
She did not feel like a bad character when I was fighting you, is how I'll say it.
Mm.
She because like I think there's a lot of situations where you just can't where you'll see someone's results with a character and you just can't chalk it up to the character. But you'll see people with certain like decks or play styles and it only works on them.
I do think
Like
that like what I'm doing is like no mere coincidence though. I'm seeing one or two other people picking it up themselves, and it's like it's
I know,
they're not necessarily like reaching my level immediately, but you could like see the stepping stones. Like yeah, this is something people can develop
reach.
themselves towards and actually like have a good time.
But it also just comes
Be
down to
all
the
around
fact that
there.
like you invented that. You
Mm.
invented that style.
It's
And
so
you
hard to get
shaped
my
the
head
way that
around that.
character's viewed.
Mm.
And that's happened a lot. And a lot of times people ignore the character as a whole and just look at how one specific person approaches it.
Sometimes that's literally all they have, which is
It
just
is,
as bad.
which is sad. But
Mm.
it's just interesting to think about. Like there was a long period of time where people were calling Maple a good character, all because of Thistle. And I think we'd all agree now that like Maple's probably just bottom two. Pretty definitively.
Actually, thinking about it, I don't even know like how a tier list would look like in the current day and age.
Yeah, I think Maple's definitively amongst the worst, at least. Either the worst or second worst.
Think so. Yeah, I think so. I'm thinking about it because I'm thinking of also like my own experience with Maple. I feel like there's like a real end game, a real like bizarre end game you could reach with Maple. Like you're basically like half of the game is just opponent trying to being in peril of being seeded and trying not to get wrapped from like seemingly everything, because like there's like
And
a
then you're
million
just
ways for
easily
Maple to just somehow to somehow get seed on you, at least return to neutral with you on seed. Like you could do like if you could do like whip move seed, it's not combo but it still gets seed on them, and then do stuff like whip into rake off angle. There's a lot.
yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's like we need some, but it's like it's really fucking hard. And then I know it's hard because like I immediately, because after like some game with like someone's really good, some person's like fairly strong mate, some very strong VO. I just like tried their deck once, and it's like I'm basically doing what Maple did. It's like with like none of the practice necessary.
Yeah, she sure is a character. I definitely think it gets to a point where there are a lot of balance discussion points being made that are kind of too directed at specific people rather than the actual game. There's been a lot of times where stuff's got nerfed or tuned because people are associating the character cards with the player.
Again, sometimes that's just all they have.
No, I more so mean like I'm trying to think of a good example. Like with how
Tretta.
hard that's a good one. She got nerfed and I for the life of me can't figure out why she got hit when she was already kind of mediocre. Other than just the
People,
fact
I
that
don't know how aware people were that like Chiretta in season 2 just doesn't function. Like
no,
you have
no.
Perilla, which basically has more than full uptime wrecking ball, and then
Mhm.
more than full uptime, like some kind of mine, basically wrecking ball. And then he had Terrible, which has zero positional investment. It can run like as many broad coverage cards as she wants. Yeah, and then like in order to like basically keep up with what Perla is doing, everyone needs to have some kind of insane two-touch strategy, which is like something Shiso did.
Which completely gives up neutral for most characters.
Hmm.
Like Chiretta just barely has a neutral.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think
like
she's a good
Shreya can't
example of
even
someone
play
who
around
got
like
nerfed way
wrecking
too
ball.
hard.
Hmm.
No, she has no ability to. You have to disarm it.
Wow.
Windfall, do you have any input on this point?
I definitely think that Cred is probably a good example of just kind of being a bit overrated in that regard because I remember fighting you and then doing the counterplay and
I
just camping you
you,
out
you
with
picked
Brig.
Orisa and you pressed weapon one,
Oh,
and I
and
just
the
got
Harissa
farmed.
matchup
It was like,
that was so bad. That matchup is so bad. Like I literally
you
just
don't
bullied you in
say.
the front. That crap was so funny.
You just mashed the button.
But I mean,
I got mashed.
I definitely think that this is something that definitely can happen because I honestly I'm probably an example myself of this happening with
You've been made a victim of it very frequently.
I think this I don't think that this was as big of a thing after release, but I think pre-release this was
Oh, it was.
definitely a major thing um of like kind of me being successful just all being kind of thrown at the character um and not
Which
really
is really stupid because it was very apparent how
because then
unbelievably cracked you are.
the character got
I think.
nerfed and then I
Hmm.
still would kept winning anyway
Won
and you know it's just
everything.
like I don't
Hmm.
have to play her to win. I want to play her to win,
Do,
but you know, and I just feel like the character probably was touched a bit more
not a
than
fact. Not much of a
necessary.
factor.
I think another good example that I know you guys definitely won't have is Hazel Jail. Like I like people hate Hazel J for very understandable reasons. It probably shouldn't even be in the game, but at this point it's way too late to think about that. But like when people think about Hazel, they think about either Hazel J or Wrench. And Wrench players are playing really well, that's another thing. But it's like they basically like hate Hazel for existing because like this jail strategy is still a thing. And then it's like how do you put it? But it's like if you actually like try the deck, you realize that jailing people is really fucking hard. I
It
don't know. I don't
is.
know how they do that. I really do not know how they do that. It's amazing.
Not only is jailing people hard, but also like a lot of decks
There's so
and
much that
characters
just
can just
break
break
out.
out of the jail, like because they can hit above or below them. Like every character I play, Queen can break out, Dread Wyam can
Jimbo.
break out, and Terrible can break out. So I mean, like,
It's like it's not even like a bad deck. It's like it's completely functional. Like you could play normal duelist while still like being able to threaten jail. It's like the annoying part is like when your deck can't play around it. It's like you have to keep this in mind, or like suddenly you get jailed and then that's the end of the game. Well, it's not even necessarily the end of the game, but it's like your options are so limited in a way that's like you, yeah,
Yeah,
you get the
the
idea.
game's essentially over.
Hmm.
Is that enough for that point? We think.
yeah, I think so. We can move on to point
Yeah.
7 now.
So, point 7. So something obviously I'm not in the server anymore, so I'm not as directly in tune with it, but I've still talked to people. There
Must
have
avoid
been
trying to mention
throughout the
names.
history of the game so many like top players that have been driven away by the way people discuss balance with them and basically discourage them from participating.
Mm.
I know even recently there have been people that have had issues with it. Just kind of by nature of it's hard to explain. If one of you two wants to kind of take over on it, since you're a little more
I think I can
directly
probably
involved still.
explain a bit, but essentially, right, is what I think is the discouraging fact is that, like I played the game for a while. I've won multiple tournaments. Every single victory was very difficult. Beating the people necessary to win these tournaments is very, very hard. I have to explore tons of counterplay. I have to build incredibly strong strategies, right? I have to really understand how this game works at a competitive level in order to be able to do this. So then, I go into the balance discussion, right? And we get into the balance discussion, and then I see something come up, and I see, complaints about it, or something like that. And then I see just like, normally if I eventually at some point I started ignoring the balance discussion channel because I'm just like, whatever, this doesn't matter. But PBE matters. So it was something that I did not really want to start ignoring. I would usually try to address things that I think were unnecessary if they came up. And then usually what I would get met with is just like, oh no, you're wrong. This is actually really overpowered. And I'm just like, okay, how? Like, can you show me this being overpowered? And then all I get is just essentially a bunch of talk, right? And I'm like, no, like, show me that this is overpowered. Show me somebody winning with this. Someone beating a very strong player that, has explored lots of counterplay and will implement the counterplay against what you're doing. Show me it beating them, because that's how I know that it's like actually really strong. Because that's just how it is, right? Stuff that's strong,
Or just
that
not even
can
like a
win.
strong player, just show someone who's like explored the counterplay and still can't struggle, and it's not even for their personal reason.
Yeah, like, show me this beating somebody that has been proven,
Doing
right?
counterplay.
And to be very knowledgeable and to have explored tons of counterplay, and that will explore the counterplay against this, so that we know for sure that this is actually as strong as what you're saying. And then people don't like when I say that.
No, you're not allowed to.
We get
You're
accused of gatekeeping.
discriminating based on skill. You can't be doing that. It's a lot of the things that, like, there were so many times where I'd be in balanced discussion and I'd basically get hit. I'd say, yeah, this is too strong, or actually you can just do this. It was very common with Perilla where people would say, oh, just hit step, it's actually bad. She's not that good. And I'd be like, okay, let's play. You
because
can,
that was
you can
never the
show me this
problem.
counterplay. And they'd play me and they'd get completely farmed. And they'd be like, no, it's not that good though. It didn't feel that
It'd be
effective.
nice.
I know you won
It'd be nice
30-0,
if
but it wasn't that
did work,
one-sided.
though. I think in that case they have like the defenses, like you completely outskilled them in the first place. So will the character
I know, it's just
showing the character
frustrating.
even matter? Which makes it like it's a very cursed scenario in that case because we can't do anything about that.
There were just a lot of times where people would basically say, no, you're wrong because I know this better than you.
Oh,
And this
yeah,
happens very frequently
yeah.
where people who aren't top level, sometimes it's good players, but it's people who definitely aren't at that level, are telling people with much better game experience and understanding that they just have no clue what they're talking about. And I think that comes into the earlier point of people not really respecting the knowledge and skill that the top players tend to have. Because they'll just act like we have no clue what we're doing with stuff. And people really seem to undervalue the amount of time and effort we've put into the game and labbing different stuff out.
But yeah,
I don't even think like you have to think of this as like that we know better than, because like they're going to be like, oh, how arrogant you are. It's the thing is like it's like the people who say that they know better than us. It's like it's not that we necessarily have like that much knowledge. It's just like they haven't done the homework to like realize like what exactly does this do and like
Yeah,
what
that's kind
options
of
are
the issue.
available.
It's a lot of people very blindly just saying stuff without supporting any of it at all.
What's an example you can give?
I'm not naming names.
No, we don't need. You don't need names. We just need like something in the game.
Counterplay to
Against
let's
maybe
think.
like counterplay against Shiso.
I don't know.
I mean, like, Windfall. Do you know any ideas?
Well, what are you looking for?
How to
an
fight
example?
Queen. How to fight Queen.
How to fight Queen. Yeah, that could be
No,
an example.
That's a very big example, actually. A lot of people complain, say she's broken, say she's stupid, say she carries, say there's zero answers to this.
I remember a video being directed at Windfall about like how she can like basically handle any projectile by tossing down the summon. It's like, yeah, I'm sure we have the reflexes for that. I'm sure we have the reflexes to react to like a projectile that's definitely that's like not even like reactable from far away.
It's a lot of people basically saying they know better than the people who are pushing these characters at the highest level of play. And they're not defending their points usually. They're just saying, well, actually, I think this, and my opinion's just as valuable. And even though I'm not going to defend it, you have to respect my opinion because I say so, even though I've never touched this character and you've won numerous tournaments with them. And it's like, I get it. I get everyone's opinions matter.
The game still has to
But
be
at
fun.
a
We're not ignoring
point, it reaches a point where like you need to concede that the people performing at that level have a certain understanding of the game at that level of play that
mean,
a lot of other people lack.
I mean, like, forget about like the idea that we are at the level. The problem is like, it's the way I'm seeing is like it's their negligence. There's this counterplay is not even the counterplay that I'm seeing is like I didn't want to bring this up, but step auto. But it's like you get like, is it too difficult to ask to move forward? If you move forward, they have to be at the back column in which you could react to that movement before they even reach you.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then
Like,
there's like so much more to that. Like at some points, like if step slash is the only way they could possibly reach you, you can react to that too. Because how else are they going to do anything to you at the back column?
they're not. So you know they're gonna step slash and you can position around it. We've been
Yeah.
doing it literally since before release, and people still want to complain that it's broken. Like if you get rid of step auto, no one is ever leaving the back row again. You are gonna get camped into
It's
oblivion
impossible to play
every
a
game
melee
you play.
deck like that unless you're specifically Celisy.
I'm pretty sure that in the Brazil mod they removed auto slash from the game and then immediately had issues with the camping and had to make adjustments
Yeah,
to
They
accommodate
What a
had to
that.
do spell to
shock.
compensate.
But either way, let's save. We have that for later.
I mean, like I have the number
revisit
11, but I feel
the
like
step
it
auto.
fits with what we're talking about because this is the one that everyone knows.
I mean, we can
And it's
can
also
discuss
guess
it
like
now. I
this
think.
card being everywhere is not a bad thing, by the way. It's like staples. Let staples be staples.
Staples exist in all card games, but the kind of point is like, I think a lot of people just kind of need to respect the knowledge and understanding that certain top players have, and I don't think this happens. And I think a lot of their opinions get discounted for next to no reason, and it's caused a lot of people to leave the server, leave the community, etc., etc. It's happened time and time again since near release. I'm not name dropping, but there have been multiple top 10 players that have quit because of just the way they've been kind of treated when talking about the game. And I think it is a problem for the community. Like, it is actively driving players away.
impossible to do anything about because there's not really any pinpoint reason to ban people over it. And then,
No.
and if
Anyways,
anyway,
no reason to ban people. Yeah, I agree. I'm in agreement there.
I mean, like, there's other things I can understand, but like, at certain point, it's like when it's like, do we just get witch hunted for being good at the game?
Yeah,
Low-key,
no,
though.
I totally get what you're saying. It's very frustrating.
I don't even think it's like top level play. This top level is a lot closer than people think. For those who aren't even there, because it's like when you see card, you respond accordingly. That's how you fight. That's how you. It's like if you can just keep playing without ever having to think of your opponent, then what depth is there to this game?
There isn't any. Not in that case, I mean.
Yeah, but it's like
I think we've covered that point
yeah,
fairly well.
it's just.
What's up next?
I guess if I were to phrase it, it's just like is it too much to ask for you to like respect that the opponent exists?
No, I get what you're saying.
Specific characters since
we
we
already
did Spears.
Yeah, we already
we
covered
already did
Spears,
Spears.
so we can move on
And
to point
to
9.
go back on Spears, I do trust Arian Hubsco a lot on like what they've been saying on Spears, which is basically which is pretty close to what we're saying right now. Although Mickle's point I think is really good is that the Spears aren't that amazing. The needs if the current passive Spear gen is lost, something should take its place. It just doesn't have to be specifically that.
I think that's another thing where that falls under the top level of play being a little different. Where Spears are working very well and fine below that, but they're borderline non-existent already at top level. And any change like that would completely kill any hope of them ever seeing high level competitive success.
Something to
Which,
compensate, eh?
yes, I fully agree.
I would even suggest mechanical changes, like for example, the spear shot that you cast during shovel being a homing shot. So then it's like you could potentially like if you accidentally grab your opponent's spears, you can potentially add it as like a combo finisher and stuff like that, which would be pretty neat. But it's like it basically, but the way it's designed is basically you can't ever extend off of it, no matter what character you're playing, and that's fine. Stuff like
I
that.
like it as is. It's got a lot of interesting stuff. It being uncounterable adds a lot of depth.
I suppose.
But since we already hit this, are there any like specific characters or specific moves on characters that are worth addressing?
I want to talk about Gunner. That's not just 6 active frames. You wouldn't get this unless you were in main card.
I don't. What do you mean?
Because like because you can't because anyway what are y'all's thoughts on Gunner?
I think Gunner's really, really strong right now. Really underrated. He has a free disengage tool that he can combo off of that also sets you on fire. That also is an off angle. And also is a really strong fast melee. And also can be used out of sets. Weapon 2 is such a stupid strong move. Shull has been using it a lot in so many different situations, and it's just incredibly oppressive to fight if you ever try to engage. I think weapon 1 is also just kind of crazy. Having on-demand hit scan that does that is just crazy. Has really good damage, synergizes well with Paragon and Combust, and Air Rifle and Veno Shock and etc. And Shull has used it a lot just in generic straight line combos. So he doesn't have to like hit confirm off it in neutral. He just tacks it on in combos and gets like obscene damage off it.
Hey, what does that mean? The last part. As in like
Getting good damage off it?
no, I mean like
Okay, so
What
like
is it?
so usually when people think of gunner, they think of laser air rifle, laser Venoshock, or stuff like that, or big laser combust. Instead, what Shull has been doing is he'll do stuff like kunai minigun, big laser paragon. He'll save the big laser for mid combo when he can basically auto confirm into it.
Hmm.
So instead of just having to rely on like hitting it in neutral, he just saves it as a big damage combo move instead of a neutral tool,
That's what I've been finding
which
best on Gunner actually, is that you don't
it's
just keep shooting. You save you save the big laser so you can tack on 4 damage plus flame with it, and it's what
mhm,
and
mhm.
it feels really good.
Yeah, Shull's been using that to incredible effect versus me.
Hmm.
And we'll get
That's
into that more later, but the weapon 2 is so unbelievably powerful at shutting down offense and de-incentivizing interaction, which really
hmm.
promotes Gunner's game plan of just shooting you.
I
Um,
mean,
but yeah, we can get into the campy aspect later because there's another character I have in mind for talking about that and how
makes
powerful playing
sense.
from the back row can be.
Hmm.
But other than Gunner, is there any other characters that need talked about? I'm
Um,
interested to hear everyone's thoughts on Shiso. Although actually, I think we already hit that earlier.
I mean, I honest. I mean, like when we talk about the damage, I'm thinking it's like this damage doesn't necessarily have to involve his gun very much. He probably only needs to put 1 bullet in the entire thing, and that's all the damage. And then
I think
everything connects.
I
You
think
don't
you're
even
right, but it's his kit that's enabling all of that to piece together.
yeah. It's
Like
basically a bunch
you
of
may only
cars
need
that
one piece
hit a
of
certain
glue,
way,
but
and then like the gun to fill in any like very tiny choke points that it
mhm,
wouldn't fit otherwise.
you'll
Which is
use like
basically
one
like how you build a deck.
you'll you'll use like one 3 spell package of combos. Use gun to link it into another 3 spell package, and it's like okay, now I'm doing big damage. Um, what are you guys thinking on Harissa currently? Because I know this is a very controversial character.
So the first thing I kind of want to bring up is that I've seen both Shoal and Sandwich say that the character is fine. Because I've seen some talk and the main core just like, oh, did Harissa get hit too hard because of the K wave nerf? And
Oh no, she
um,
did not.
I think that's definitely just like no. I think that she's still quite good.
Her
I don't think
hers is
that
running a
she's
lot of other
doing
interesting
stupid amounts of
cards.
damage anymore. And
Hmm.
that was really the only issue that I kind of had. I was like, okay, this character has insane neutral, and then she's also doing double team kinetic wave combos for like 40 plus damage, and that's kind of stupid. Um, but obviously, that's not really a thing now because kinetic wave damage has been significantly reduced, and then step auto damage has also been reduced. So I think that her damage is right now much more fair for how strong her neutral is, and I think that balance wise, she's in a really good spot.
I think if I had to place her, I'd call her a very, very solid high 2 top tier.
Hmm.
In that kind of range. I think she's still among the best characters. She's still obviously very strong. The only thing that really got hit meaningfully was she has a little worse damage output, but it's still solid. And she still finds it very consistently.
I remember Shaw saying that Harissa to him feels kind of like a really strong middle tier. It's interesting. It's basically like she's
Which
not she's good, but it's like there's definitely better things out there that he might be incentivized to try before her.
I think the only one he's told me he thinks is like better than her that he's been messing with is Gunner.
Hmm. Could
Because
potentially
he
see
thinks
that.
Gunner's better than Harissa.
Hmm.
I don't know my thoughts on that, but I wouldn't discount it.
I mean,
I
he's been
wouldn't
putting
I
either.
some work into
It's
Gunner, so
Like
He
Windfall,
kinda-
you saw some of our games earlier, right? Me and him. Like
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
he's got some stupid stuff with her or with him. He's hitting some like his gunner's cooking.
I need to throw in poison on Gunner more and just see how that works. It's clearly very effective. It probably makes me less combo
I
dependent.
I agree. It forces a lot of very hard decisions.
But I do know, like, when I try his deck, it's like the elements of Shoal himself is definitely playing into this by quite a lot.
I
It's
agree.
it's
I
not
think
it's not just it's not just a deck working out.
no, Shoal is just a different player. He's a different.
To be fair, a lot of the spells are a lot of spells he has used before. He's definitely used Kunai Vinashak Paragon. He's definitely used
Yeah,
Step
I
Slash.
also just think he's a
Yeah,
different
for
type
sure.
of player. His like long-term adaptation is so I've played a lot of games competitively, a lot, and I've been pretty good at a lot. I have never in my life in any game I've ever played found someone whose long-term game plan building and adaptation was as good as Shoal's.
Hmm.
I think it's unreasonably effective, and it's very that's why I thought Perillo was so good. One of the reasons, because I was like, well, if Shoal can't come up with a way to deal with it, then it's literally impossible. It's just not going to happen.
Hmm.
But yeah, we talked about Nero Weapon 2. We talked about Shiso, Harissa, Gunner. What do we think? So Perillo, she obviously got hit very, very, very hard. And I don't
Honestly,
think anyone would
do you
disagree with
think
that.
like Pearl, if Came comes back, she was basically to where she was, except the webs don't hit stun. I think that'd be
I
alright.
think and Weapon 2 or and yeah, Weapon 2
A weapon
doesn't
to being
work against
shieldable,
shield
like
now.
weapon to shieldable, is like a disaster. If you have push slash, you basically counter her.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Honestly, she could
So
K-Wave could totally come back in that case.
I
Because
think
like she's
she
like the main
very,
defender.
very definitively got nerfed very, very hard, but I think she's still good. Like I fought sandwiches for really using like a very interesting deck. It was like double team inverter, um, Zenith. It
Oh,
was
he
a
like
really
Zenith into World Drag.
no. You just Zenith, and you'd either be forced into a one lane where you get weapon two, or you just inverter you into it.
Mhm. And you
It's like,
wouldn't be
oh,
able to shield
okay.
that, eh?
No, because Zenith, you just get murdered for it. Zenith,
That's cooking. That's
yeah,
definitely
no, it's
cooking.
neat. Um, and I've used Brilla to. Last time I was playing, Shoal and I were going pretty even using Invade Perilla with Step Lance. On the PvE, there's a new interaction that got added due to the Crossfire buff, where you can do off-angle Crossfire, walk Step Lance, and get the sweet spot. And you
Hmm.
can't do that on live patch, and that really helps. That made for a very interesting deck. But I think just general like you could probably run a Perilla deck that's just like straight line and root and do pretty well. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be very effective. I get it doesn't do hit stun, but webs rooting are still sucky. Like you still don't want to deal with
I
that.
feel like you want to do some kind of off angle for root.
Yeah, you can run like Northwind and Tangle type stuff. Northwind and Tangle apprehend.
Homing, I guess. There's a lot of R&D to
I
do
don't
for
know.
sure. She is far from a solved character.
Yeah, I'm thinking of running something on her very similar to what Windfall did at release of the character at the start of season 2 that made me think, "Oh, this character's lame."
Mm.
Where he'd just control the front row with webs and make it so you can't freely run in without getting like off angled or strangled with root.
Web
Mm.
spam go burr.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's. I'm so glad it's under control in some capacity now.
I just
What do
realized I
you
have.
think of her now?
Um, I
Aaron, what do you?
think, I think it's I definitely think she got hit very hard at first. Like when everyone's just like, "Oh, she got over nerfed," I'm just like, I don't know. I kind of want to see people cook for like a month before I really believe anything, because it's like, yes, this character got nerfed because she was insanely broken, and obviously an insanely broken
Like,
character getting insanely worse doesn't even make them bad necessarily. It's just now they're in line, but like the comparison is so extreme from where they were before. I feel,
it's
because
like
just her
it's like
combination,
Bayonetta from Smash 4.
her
Oh,
combination of tools was just so unfair. Um, and then now it's
yeah.
not unfair, and I feel like you cannot play Perilla the same way that that you
You
people
used to
were
be
playing
able
her
to.
before, right?
Can just do touch frenzy.
Yeah, you can't just two touch. You can't just fish for W2 and win the game that way, right? You need to do a
Now
bit
it
more.
actually is a bad deck as people claim it to be.
I know, right? Now the deck isn't good, but
um,
I
so
think that
yeah,
as I think I'm the highest leveled Brillo player, or at
I
least I used to be.
I can check. One sec,
I had
because
yeah, you can check. I know I was at a point.
ARG got stats of eating back up, so I can look.
Oh, I didn't know who did it. I just saw it
Oh,
posted in the JP Discord.
Yeah, dude,
yeah.
ARG the goat.
I like to think there's a
Is it-
friendly rivalry going on there, since there's technically two stats of Eden.
Oh, I didn't
You
know
were
that.
the second highest per
Who's the highest?
uh
One of the JP players.
Hick 4. I'm not entirely sure
Okay, yeah,
who that is based on the tag.
JP player,
I
I
see.
think.
Hey, what's the URL actually? I can't find it.
I'll put it in the chat. You know, I was shocked to find out that I was the highest level terrible player. I did not think I was. I was
Am I
like
number
actually
two?
baffled. I think you are number 2, Mickle.
Yeah, I
Nice.
know Rooney's definitely number one from playing as much as he.
Oh, you mean I mean in terms of
Oh, level.
specific characters. Oh, I used to be number one in.
Oh, Hick 4. I could see that. Man, they grind so much. That's insane.
I wonder which character has the most order alts.
I think it was Churetta.
Celicy? I think it's Celicy,
Wait,
because
it might be
Celicy has
Celicy.
6.
Churetta's got 5.
Yeah, they get Celicy. Probably.
Yep, it's Celicy.
Yeah.
Rooney did hit level 1,000 before me.
I think he's broken past it. I don't know by how much.
He's level 1001 now,
Yeah.
3.19. He's at 3.19 million. I'm at 3.11.
Yeah.
And that's how many games is that? I don't think about it.
I don't know. He's a grinder. I'm glad he hit that. He deserves that.
Yeah.
But I can't even remember oh yeah, Perilla. Like, as someone who probably put more top level time into her than anyone in terms of like just competition and grinding and trying to push the character, I think she's fine. Like, she needed to get hit as hard as she did. I'm very glad she did, because now I can play other characters. um it was very unreasonable how good they made her, and I think she's in a much better place now. I think she's still probably like mid tier at worst. She's definitely not bad like some people think.
Yeah.
I
She's
think
definitely
people
got
just need to
options.
learn her new kit instead of
Okay.
just kind of getting to mash webs in her game plan for free. Are there any other characters worth talking about before we move
Terrible.
on to the final point? Terrible.
I'm curious on what you guys think. If I'm going to be real, before 2.7, Terrible is just doing better than my mains.
Is
That's saying a
2.7
lot.
the
It's
patch
before
that nerfed her?
2.7D. Yeah, the patch that nerfed her cooldown to like 60 something.
Good. It needed nerfed. She was kind of stupid.
But
That
yeah,
was
whatever.
doing better
Then
than my
we'll
mains,
commander.
by the way. I just threw in a bunch of I just threw a glitter and a bunch of melees and called it a day. And it was doing better than my mains. It could definitely optimize it, but there's no need. She already controlled the entire field.
Bro, I put in
That
even
was
less
the
effort than
issue
you.
with it.
I just threw a bunch of 3 costs together and I
Windfall
was beating people. Good
or
old
face roll.
roll, dude. I was like, I'm not even. I literally spent literally like 5 minutes putting that crap together, and it was so much more effective than I ever hoped that it would be. And the worst part is, it's not even unviable right now. Like, it's actually still a perfectly playable deck because it never really relied on Swallow Spear in the first place. It leans much more into study. It's primarily enabled by study and not actually by that. But as for terrible, for me, I don't really think. The thing is, I already didn't really need to rely on spamming W1 on Old Terrible to get things. So obviously when the nerf happened, I don't really think that
I
I
mean, like, it
was
changed
affected that
nothing,
much as a
really.
player. Um, Obviously,
And
you
changed.
can't spam it anymore. People can handle W1 a bit better, and then you also cannot.
It definitely helps keep her honest.
Yeah, and then you can't combo W1 into itself, and in general, W1 and combos is like it's
Dead.
incredibly hard to use in combos because the cooldown is so long that like you quite literally cannot use it more than once in a combo currently due to the extremely long cooldown. But I don't need to, so
And also, and it doesn't even matter if like it takes this long to fire it back. It's still like 2 layers of interaction just at the back column. Like, sure, it's like, sure, anti. I get it. Like, it's a really cool anti camp. We need more anti camp. This is not. You don't need to make a 2 mana weapon that costs 1 for it.
I think my big issue with her currently is that like weapon 1 doesn't feel like it does anything unless it hits the back column. Like it's just a 1 damage projectile with mediocre frame data. So like if you shield it or just even eat it, it's like, so what? Unless it explodes, it's not doing anything. I feel like it needs its 2 damage back. Otherwise, it's
Yeah,
it's just
I
not
mean,
threatening enough right now.
that's what's happening in PvE. So
Is
it should
it
be
good?
yeah.
yeah, I
Okay,
think
then yeah,
There's so much
I'm
I
pretty
don't
happy
like
with where
about
she's
this
at.
character. It's like the only way I could like potentially see it's like the only way I could like potentially like see this being okay back in season 2 is just like just axe her outright. Really, even now even now I still feel that. It's like, where do I even start?
She's certainly a frustrating one.
It's not.
She just
It's,
layers a little too she layers very effectively.
you start as
But I
common,
think
is just like 2 layers of interaction. One, and then it's like the thing is like the problem is like there's no positional commitment to this to any of her attacks whatsoever. Like
um
she could be at the back and then move to the front melee. Like she can, of course she can do that because it takes so long. Like her recovery is
Darkwave
already
isn't fast, which really helps.
no, I mean comment. Sorry, but
Oh yeah,
Dark Wave
Comet's
is
really
also
good.
Dark Wave too. But it's like it's it's a male. Like if you're trying to cast this and get punished, you're already using it wrong in the first place. You shouldn't even be considering that if your opponent can just hit if you're like sure the opponent can hit back. The thing is like this since this covers so much area, you barely have any positional investment. So it's like your opponent's not going to react fast enough to hit you, and you could shield,
I
dodge.
disagree.
I mean, like if your opponent
I
is
think
basically poised to hit you, of course it's going to hit. But it's like
yeah, I mean
it's a
they
preventative measure. It's not a responsive measure.
I think that's similarly effective to the point where I think it's fine. Like you can't there's a lot of situations where she can't do a ton with Darkwave in neutral versus characters that can poke at the front without having to stand in the front. So example versus Shredda versus Gunner and versus Harissa. It's like Darkwave's barely doing anything there. Um outside of like niche combo setups and stuff. I think it's definitely very effective in a lot of matchups, but the speed of it and the fact that it takes forever to hit row 2 really does stop it from being too problematic.
Yes.
I
And
think
also just games is like it's so anti-cooking. I don't know if
Anti
this
what?
makes anti-cooking. I don't know if this makes sense to you guys, but it's like, I'm sorry. It's just like this is just so much.
No, I
I
get what
have,
you're
I
saying.
have so much hatred of this character. It's like that's
Windfall, what are
why.
your thoughts on her currently? Because you've as the highest level terrible.
so.
You put the most
Terrible.
time.
I am still doing quite a bit of labbing on her. Um, as I'm labbing a bit more, Dark Wave is better than people think.
Disgusting.
It's
um, and
my
it's
bad.
not because of just like like Dark Wave and no one can box me because people can box Dark Wave. Um, I
Pretty
definitely
effectively,
yeah I
yeah.
think that Dark
Yeah,
Wave is
but if you're
definitely
doing that,
boxable.
you were never casting Uriah in the first place. You shouldn't be even casting it in
I
that
don't
situation.
agree.
Well, the thing is, right, is that I can cast Dark Wave from like a heavy off angle, like I'm like 2 tiles up, and there's like multiple characters in this game with the weapon fast enough to actually hit me. Like Violet can walk up and hit me, right? Coretta can walk up and hit
Yep.
me. And then obviously there's some characters with off angle melee weapons, like Maple doesn't even have to walk all the way up to hit me, and things like that.
Um,
Um,
Harissa's a
yeah, and then obviously Harissa does not
horrific
have to
example.
walk all the way up in order to hit me. And then Dark Wave also like against characters that don't even care about touching the front and they just sit column two. Then once again
It's
Dark Wave
like,
is
oh,
also
it doesn't do
not as good.
anything.
And
But
then
it's like
Rava just ignores
why?
Dark Wave a lot of the time, because and vulnerability. I think the part of Dark Wave that isn't being seen that is good is how it works in strings and combos, and that is where I think the
Hmm.
move starts to really shine, and I'm kind of working on ways to um, bring out the potential of that currently.
The only issue is there are very, very few real ways to set up into it.
Yeah, it has pretty limited roots right now,
Let me go
but they
test it.
exist though.
Old Lasso worked into it.
Yeah, it did.
I'm pretty sure max distance pull works, like distance 4 pull lets you hit step it, but you still get guaranteed hit. Let me test that real quick. But the relevant one to recent stuff is root and vine pull.
Yeah, Vine Pull Dark Wave, pretty nice. It is. I'm finding out, and I'm
That's the only
also
thing I could think of that potentially extends because Lasso is gone now.
there's also Apprehend as well. You can do stuff with that,
No,
Mhm.
but you
but
need
it's
Invade.
gap 5.
No, if you do Invade, if you do Auto Slash, Apprehend, Dark Wave, it ignores Hit Step, and then
Oh,
it
like
true.
that. So basically mid invade, and then you get abused. That okay.
Yeah. So even
You treat it like
if they
step
hit step the
missiles.
Auto Slash, they still get hit by Apprehend. Cast the Dark Wave after, and then you just react to the hit step of the opponent because it's gap one, and yeah.
I see.
Heavily empowers Auto Slash a bit. Um, So you can do stuff with that. You can, in general, kind of just do invade Dark Wave to just create pressure, because now there's a hitbox in the opponent's side of the field that they have to think about, and I could kind of use that to fish for things. I found Northwind to be very helpful, especially for fishing for Comet, because it's just like, okay, you want to sit there and shield? All right, and Northwind. Sit there and shield now.
Have even more layering.
And then the thing is, like, how I'm working with Root, right? Like, if you shield Comet and I root you, you die anyway. So,
Mm.
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm
Yeah, I
working on some
think
strats with her right now to kind of bring out more of the potential of the character. I doubt I would even be done testing these properly before we even reach the final patch of the game, because I deck test for a while to really see how things are. So I wouldn't really be able to say for sure the strength of these, because like I said, like I could count on my hand how many matchups I have even fought with these decks. I literally built the root deck like 3 days ago. I was messing with Apprehend earlier this week. I haven't even really gotten a proper deck list for either of these yet. They're not optimized at all. It's just I've discovered the concept. I've been messing with the concept, and looking into ways to bring out more, bring out the potential of it. So she she has potential. She has good potential, very good potential. But at the end of the day, right now it's just potential. We need to see if it actually plays out that way.
Pays off. Let's see. What other characters are worth discussing? I think it's worth looking at Queen.
Queen
Talking
has
about
not been
Queen.
getting anything from season 2 onwards. Queen has not gotten a single thing going for her.
Queen hasn't had any love since, like,
Season 2.
I mean,
Season 1, there
what
was at least the Snowfall Queen.
since Snowfall got discovered,
Hmm.
like that deck, has there been a single good thing that's happened to Queen?
Well, the thing is,
Not
Snowfall
to
was
my
pre-release. That deck was a pre-release strategy. It wasn't
Yeah,
even
no, since
released.
it got discovered, has there been a single thing since before the release of the game that has happened to Queen that benefits her?
thing.
Harrison got nerfed.
My memory's not good enough for this one.
No, I'm pretty sure she's just gotten nerfed and nerfed and nerfed. Time and time again, getting target nerfed on her decks and spells.
I mean, like, the thing is, like, playing around the summit is hard. Honestly, it's been so long since that time that I can barely remember why exactly this was so difficult, and that feels really bad, considering that this is a balanced discussion and you should have more credible answers than that.
I think she's just gotten hit too many times.
Well,
I think people complaining about her, like,
See, what was the problem
generally
though?
speaking,
They couldn't play
it's
on
either
summit
their
for
deck
sure.
sucks or it's a skill issue.
I mean, like,
I
I
think
struggled against it too, but why
I think
exactly? Why couldn't I play
you
around it?
struggled less against Queen and more against like a few specific Queen players.
I guess. It's like when I
And I
look at
think
it,
that
like I shouldn't be having any issues. In fact, I know for a fact that like the way I play Terra specifically, so then like there's no such thing as a matchup I can't beat and can't eventually
I,
be able to handle at one point.
I think at least way back when, a lot of people who thought they were struggling with Queen were just struggling with Windfall.
That's then I
Um,
see. I mean, like it's not like the Queen players are bad. They were both the Queen players have minded. It was like Windfall, Kishi, and Kalan. None of them are bad. I
no,
think
no,
Kalan is
those
like
are all
second to Shoal in Brazil. I'm pretty
yes,
sure. Yeah.
definitively. And those are all players who are at minimum debatably top 10 in the world.
And then it's like, why would they
Most
struggle
like
so much against a single summon? It's so
I
weird.
think Shull, as much as he talks himself down, he literally won Code S over me last month. Like I, I I'm tired. I can't believe he slanders himself as hard as he does.
I think part of it is that he sees so much potential in the game too. Like he knows like
Yeah,
we can still achieve higher. The top level is the top for now, but there's still the whole. It's no summit.
a lot
It,
left
it
to
is no
go.
summit.
I
Yeah,
agree.
and I think that's part of what makes
Um,
this game great.
Windfall, what do you think of current Queen as the Queen player, the person who's invented both of her meta decks she's had over the time?
So, I am not really happy where she is currently, because it's just, I obviously I made these decks. They've done very well over a long period of time. There's a reason that there's not more of these meta strategies. I've developed some. They kind of died over time due to balance changes. Snowfall and Gunner X are kind of their remaining ones that were kind of still viable even this long after released. And then the Gunner X deck that I ran and ESL, Inverter got hit. Kinetic Wave has been hit since then. Kunai's been hit. Step Slash has been hit. Auto Slash has been hit. I don't even think people understand why I don't play the deck anymore. That is why I don't play it, for anybody wondering. And then now we
the
have
changes.
Snowfall, right? And Crystal Rifle's been hit, Step Slash has been hit, Auto Slash has been hit, the entire Frost archetype as a whole has been hit, and badly been hit, right? And then
Snow Cone got hit.
They even attempted
way
to nerf,
back when.
They attempted to nerf Execute, but buffed it by accident.
Hey, they don't know about that yet.
No,
They know.
They don't know about that yet.
It's been hard enough. The problem is it doesn't work with Skewer anymore. But I don't think you were using that.
But
I don't think the world is aware of the Execute change.
Either way, the Execute change is pretty much negligible. Because like at least in a lot of matchups, most people at this point aren't dumb enough to try and box Queen. So it's not even.
Are people allowed to know about it now?
I already told them about it, and I already told Dev directly.
Oh, you did.
It just
okay.
It's probably here to stay at this point. But
okay, that's fine then. Yeah,
it's
the
not
biggest
really
relevant change.
Big of a deal in the first place, which is why most people probably didn't even notice it. But yeah, essentially everything that kind of pushed this character to success has been hit like severely. Which Gunner X I don't think was ever targeted. Snowfall was definitely targeted.
Ridiculously
with balance
hard,
changes.
Yes.
So, and it's just like, okay. And then it's not even just that. It's the fact that piercing is the strongest it has ever been in the history of me. Like, ever since I started playing this game, piercing has never been stronger than it has been now.
Struggled.
Piercing is so much stronger now that, because, like, think about it. We have Rake, which is a new spell. Flurry is meta, right? And
ridiculously so.
Yeah. So we have Rake, we have Flurry. They just buffed Dem Sword too, although
Season
it's not quite as strong.
Just straight up didn't care.
Right.
They didn't care about a single summon.
And then also like a lot of characters have been buffed. Rava just got her piercing back, right? And then her W2 also hits through the chest piece.
Stupid.
W2 also hits the chest piece. A lot of characters that had a hard time dealing with Queen have been buffed, right? And I just feel like the overall character power level of the game has increased, and then Queen has been repeatedly hit, like
nerfed
and hasn't really gotten anything to, accommodate for what she lost with her strategies. And now I kind of just feel like it's like, okay, it's at a point where like I would not really want to play her in a competition currently, especially not over
I think that's fair.
Because it's just like, okay, I can play Queen, right? The structure is not really going to provide real protection in this meta because there's so many characters and strats that are going to deal with it, whether they're playing one of the stronger piercing spells or I'm just fighting a character that's going to deal with it, like Rava's going to deal with it, Violette's going to deal with it, right? Even Terra can deal with it. I can't set Beast Camp against Terra. It doesn't work because Dark Matter, right? And then, just characters have just good options now, right? And then this is on top of the fact that Queen has the lowest damage output, weapon-wise, in terms of, like, her combo damage is the lowest in the game. She cannot really extend with her weapons, right? And then you can technically do some cool extensions with Execute, except it adds 1 damage to your combos. So, like, it's not real. It's like, why even bother doing it?
Speaking of Execute,
you're not stringing shit with Execute.
And then
the only meaningful change she got that helped her was she can do Execute walk set piece now, and it's true instead of hit steppable.
Yep, that's true now. Although it's still like you can do like some strings with that, but like I said, is that most people at this point are
smart enough to not.
Yeah, like people aren't going to sit there, and then obviously there's multiple characters with the 2-aways and everything, and I think that trying to make her work and like high level competitive is just not gonna happen.
Not
to be
worth
quite
it.
frank,
Especially now that Snowfall's dead.
Honestly, I think she might just be bottom 1.
No, definitely not. I don't think she's as bad as Maple or Violet. I think Maple and Violet are
Violet
definitely
has
bottom.
a better.
Oh, I disagree.
But
Hmm.
I think
I
Queen
think-
she's playable. I would never put her in like bottom tier. But I
How
think
do you
that
even,
she's much
build
weaker than I
Queen now?
currently would like
Since
her to be.
well, I mean, like her damage got clipped, but it's like
I think you
there's a
just
trait
build
where
her
she
with
can
like
do-
fundies. Just like you build her
How do you
Gunner
do that
X
plays into her
adjacent.
strengths though? I mean, like you could build
You,
Nier with fundies, but that's
I know.
not very nice, is it?
There's not a ton. She doesn't have a
And
ton of unique stuff to enable her offense. It's really lame because she used to, but then they kept nerfing her 15 times in a row,
And then like
and people want to act like she's still broken.
I've been trying to push some buffs for her in PvE, but like I got immediately met with backlash. People tell me the character's broken even though they haven't seen her in competitive play for I don't even know how long. And yeah, it's just that's one of the reasons I have been in PvE less. I only went back in there to kind of defend Spearwave a little bit. Honestly, that was primarily
no,
for
Windfall,
Hubsco's
you're
sake.
just playing Queen
But,
wrong.
But it's just like, and you know, I even had to go off a little bit after basically being told just like, oh, just set piece in camp, and I'm just like, okay, what have you done with this character? you don't even know this works because you can't actually do this and win. And if you look at Kane's gameplay, he doesn't do this and win. He like I watched him play, and then one of the more recent streams, I literally found the most recent gameplay I could have played to see if just like if always doing a set piece and camping, and lo and behold, you go and watch him play, and that's not always doing. And in fact, there's multiple matchups where you barely see him do it at all. There was points where I didn't even see him put a chess piece down for like 10 plus seconds. Like it's actually a joke. I don't even know where these people are getting these ideas from.
Wait, who?
Like
Go on.
These people are actually just coming
However you
up
pronounce his tag.
with the most fake BS to say about this character to try and convince people that she's overpowered, and then
It
you
goes
just
back
go
to
look
like
at
how
reality,
like
and it just
our
doesn't add up.
performances on the character has overshadowed like what they can actually like exhibit from it on their own.
Mm-hmm. Where like Queen had a couple very good players, and because of that, apparently
The
she's
way it
broken.
almost makes it feel like it's a curse to be good because then we just see our favorite mains get nerfed, and it's like, do I just not get good at the game?
I don't know. It's actually kind of funny
you
because
just hide stuff.
you see you kind of see a lot of top players kind of succeed with a character, and then watch them get hit. That's part of the reason why we don't see Show as much anymore. I'm just saying, that's it happens, right? And it's just like
I think
people are allergic to
quit
buffing these characters
partially
even
because
when
of
they're
that.
underperforming because I think they associate or like are still looking back. It's like, oh, this character was insane like 7 months ago. Like,
Yeah.
bro, this ain't 7 months ago. This is right now. And
The game's so different.
yeah, and it's just like you can't go look back then to determine whether a character is strong now because like this is a completely different metagame, right? And I think that just not refusing to buff a character because they were successful in the past is just dumb.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with you fully. I think Queen is one of the biggest victims of this out of anyone, if not the biggest. I think the only other character that's in contention for biggest victim of this kind of thing is Violet.
I'm just looking at this right now. It's like I'm wondering, like, how do you even buff Queen? Like,
You
how
could
do you
make
even, like summon support is hot ass, so not that.
you could buff the payoff of getting set piece down. As in, you could like buff the offensive power.
That's literally what I said.
Definitely something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Although I do want to suggest a particular way of doing it, and it's that you make the You make the set piece attacks multi-hit, so that like you have time to react to it, and if you want to like connect like something stinger after it, you can I don't know if you do. I think you actually want to disincentivize that. I can't remember. But it's like, if you wanted to be more than plus 24, then that's how you would do it. So then you don't, what's it?
Would you
So
make it
then,
like
like,
a
the opponent hit
projectile?
stepping before you even cast it doesn't become the problem.
Would that
You
involve
know?
like making it a projectile?
No, it's just basically making it hit multiple times. So it would be
Mm,
something like, I guess you could say flurry. Maybe
I don't
Let
know
me
how I
see
feel
a
about
different
that one.
example.
For me,
That feels like it might be a bit excessive.
the buff I was
It
trying to
definitely extends
push.
like confirmed duration.
The buff that I was trying to push was literally to reduce the chest seeker recovery by 3 frames to enable more, combos that she can get off Fingal, off of things, which realistically, um, this primarily affects Bishop because Rook, obviously, you kind of hit Rook there in front of the Rook, so you're not really going to be able to get many things off of that without destroying the Rook or without the Rook body blocking you, unless it's like a homing spell, right? And I said reduce it by 3 frames. This opens up the window for a decent amount of spells, right? If you go 2
What comes
frames,
to
it doesn't
mind right
really open up anything significant. But like at least 3 frames, I can like walk 2 minigun, right, or something like that. This
now?
enables Seeker attack into Stinger, which is why I said increase Stinger startup by 1, which I doubt literally anybody would complain about because there's so many people who already hate Stinger anyway. And this doesn't invalidate any Stinger combos that are relevant and
Or meaningful.
yeah, and this also doesn't prevent. This doesn't even make any weapon setups from Reva or Nira into Stinger untrue. They are completely unaffected. And then
Because they were already injured to begin with.
yeah, and then all of the relevant, all of the relevant combos in the
Of
Stinger,
course.
are also going to be unaffected by this. Which is why I'm just like, okay, this is something to work with at least to make set piece at least a little more threatening, so I can sometimes get something off of it. Even then, like it would be the minigun would be gap 0, right? So I kind of have to break my fingers to get it to work, but at least I would have something to work with. But yeah, obviously, like right now, if you go in PBE, it's literally an even vote. So I don't know if it'll go through. Dev might implement it.
I hope.
But
Would
at this point, I don't know. I can't really be too hopeful.
I'm just trying to conceive how that I mean, like, it helps with the off angles, but it's like how the deck dynamic works is just like it's lost to me.
Well, I mean, I'd love to ask for more, but
And like what I'm seeing, like it's so much sophistication for what people are doing just for breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to have the set piece, you need to activate it, and then it's like your opponent is just like walking up and beating and like punching really hard, and that's it. Like they don't need this entire setup jig just to interact with you.
Yeah,
And
no, I
that's why
would
it's like I don't see this working out for a queen.
I would love to see her get more buffs because
She definitely
she's
needs
just a
more.
mid tier right now. Like she's functional, she's fine, but
like
she could use a lot more.
I would love to ask for more, but I literally can't.
This is already
Because if
this is already barely.
This is literally already an even vote for me asking for a 3 frame recovery reduction that would just give me slightly more than what it would open up some new options that I get off of pretty much just Bishop, right? And I'm even saying it's like I don't want Stinger to be enabled by this. But just like I'd love to ask for more, but realistically, if I asked for any more than this, I doubt that I get the votes in PvE,
Any of it.
even if the character needs it, because PvE is a numbers
The fact
game,
that we have to
unfortunately.
think of it like that is so shit.
Yep. Character just needs help. I think, is there any other character, weapon, or anything like that that anyone wants to talk about?
Rava W2.
Because I think if not, okay, so that pivots to our next point.
I guess so.
Yeah, let's just get to
Before
that now.
that, Maple, I
Yeah.
guess.
You want to talk about Maple first?
Oh, what about
Up to you.
Maple?
But it's like,
The
have
bug?
I said much about Maple? I feel like I could have sworn something about Maple. Like how like
I
seed retention is like super possible, but it's like from like seemingly almost any interactions, like mark or seed payouts are reliable, accessible. She's not slacking even, but then in the end, she's just doing so much more than what people get for free.
Yeah, Seed is very interesting. Seed is a
It's
move
a
that is either going to be bad or broken.
yeah.
And it's been that way since well before release, and it will always be that way.
Yeah, there
That's
never really
never
seemed
gonna
to be a
change.
good middle ground for
Yeah,
this weapon.
the middle
I
ground.
I don't think a middle ground exists. There's no
No,
way to make that thing balanced.
I mean like if Flurry stays as is, I guess. No, I just no. That's not how it works. I I mean, like, she's got a lot too, you know. Like, she could do like what's it at low health thresholds, she could just do Vine Whip into Step Slash. Like, surely that's not
I didn't know that.
obsolete. Yeah, and then
I
like
guess it makes
she can
sense.
easily do like Step Slash. She could do Step Slash, Whip, Seed, Backstab quite easily, and then
I've seen
that gets
that.
her wrap, and then she gets to do whatever hell she wants. She's got.
I think
She's
she's
not
just
talked
really
about that.
bad. She's too high effort.
Yeah. We need more.
And her
We need
neutral is
more things.
atrocious.
Wonder about. I mean, like, yeah, I guess if you compare it to Hearst and Gunner, like, yeah, that's true.
Anyways, so
Rava.
this pivots into the next point as a whole. Rava W2. Playing from back row and just generally campy strats feel very effective currently. And when I say this, I mean strats that de-incentivize your opponent from interacting with you. So the two big ones I want to talk about are Gunner and Riva, where both of them can effectively play neutral from very far back and get all the benefits of that, while being able to risk free shut down your front row without any real effort. Because Riva just basically has rush tied to a weapon, which is ridiculous. And Gunner just disengages with. I went into Gunner W2 being stupid earlier, but I've been playing Shaw a lot recently, and he just camps with weapon 2, and it's like doesn't feel like there's much I can do to meaningfully interact. I just have to hope I can get a lucky hit in that lets me kill him. So I just run high roll and just hope it works, or I just kind of lose. It's very frustrating. I think Riva can do the same thing, where she gets to just run back and try to force you to go forward because you can't really hit her in back row otherwise reliably. And then she just has a button that kills you for entering front row. And I think that's the big issue. And I think a lot of characters can play from front row. Like Harissa, Shoals Harissa used to do it with steps, where he'd hold step slash and just sit in the back row. And it's like, well, I can't reach you from over there, so I have to come forward at some point. And then you get step slashed and murdered. Um, just that general issue has been feeling very frustrating lately. I'm wondering if either of y'all have felt similar.
So I know for me, um, I kind of hate Rava's W2 right now. I
Yeah,
wanted Rava. I'm
stupid.
very happy that the character got buffed. I was very supportive of Rava buffs going in, and even now, I would rather her keep her current W2 than get reverted to being bad. Even if I hate her current weapon, but I what my ideal situation for Reva was for her shield bash to actually like kind of function like a DP, but it doesn't function like a DP because DPs are punishable when you whiff them, right? But you whiff Reva
Yeah,
W
about
two,
that.
and it's not punishable at all. Like you can literally know what's coming, you can bait it out and still get nothing. Like most of the
Mhm.
time, and I think that that's kind of like the main issue with it is the fact that Reva does not have to be afraid of whiffing shield bash. Um, so it's just like it's an invulnerability button that she never really has to be afraid to click because it's not punishable. And now it has the additional range that it extends into second column now. Um, so, and I think that kind of like just kills any possibility of you being in the same row as Reva to kind of like space it out. Because it's like you would have to be third column when she shield bashes to the front to freaking avoid that. And
And at
they're
that
not going to
point,
shield
she's
bash.
probably not going to press it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's not going to
it's
press the
like,
button, right? Um, and then you shield bash, can't punish it. You dodge shield bash, you'd have to dodge shield bash on, which is already like kind of very hard to do,
it's just
and you'd have to
unreasonable.
be like immediate to get a punish on that. Like immediate, you have to have something fast enough, and you would have to get the immediate freaking buffer right to freaking be able to punish that crap. And I think that that's kind of silly, right? And I think that the way her weapon works also gives her some new synergy with strip mine and bomb, because new W2 makes
Oh,
strip
you're right
mine.
about
Yeah, I've seen strip mine bomb get played, and strip mine is way harder to deal with against Raven now because the W2 pushes you into the strip mine.
Mm-hmm.
If you were trying to sit second column against her, right? So that's definitely a big thing. But honestly, I'm not even too concerned about that. It's just the fact that Reva can end vulnerability. I can't ever really try and attack her in the same row when she's camping me because if I step in front of her, she W2s and it's gonna beat anything I throw out, right? And then obviously, Reva can also just W2 out of disadvantage if your gap is big enough. Which so if you're doing like strings and you're like essentially throwing out spells, applying the pressure so that you can kind of fish for the hit that you're looking for. W2. Just like W2. And it doesn't matter if you bait it out. It's just it's the invulnerability button, dude, and it having the additional front pressure of you not being able to counter it by sitting column 2 is like it makes her far more effective at camping than like I kind of ever wanted her to be. And then now she also has her piercing back too. So that's also another thing is that she doesn't lose the structure characters anymore as well. Because now the Ricochet Shield is going to pierce the structure and then hit the person behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Which
also
is
very strong. So that's
grand.
gonna make her do much better against like Queen and Hazel. So I think that she's kind of just very, very good right now. And W2 is kind of like really hard to interact with just due to the way it works. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on her. Do I think that she's in a nerf worthy state? I would rather see W2 like change rather than lose its current power level. Right? I
I
don't mind
agree.
W2 being good, but the way that W2 is good is kind of the problem and not the fact that W2 is good.
Yeah, I think Gunner Weapon 2 actually has a lot of the same functions. In that it basically is like, hey, I can't challenge you in this general vicinity because you have a giant lagless option that is going to basically not put you in danger to use, and I can't punish it. So I'm just going to play in the space. You kind of have to try to move forward if you even want to reach me, but I'm just going to match weapon 2 if you even think about it.
Mm.
And both of those have made for some very lame gameplay I've had to deal with.
knew from the very beginning. I was always fearing that like Gunner's game plan was just to basically never engage because he has no reason to. I don't like that age like wine, that thinking,
That's what it's feeling like.
because it's like I've always
Have
noticed
you
like
watched my matches with Shoal recently?
yeah, I mean like it'd be basically like it's basically like a slow grind. When he does beat, it's a slow grind to death. It
Yeah.
takes it. To be fair, it's at least like on his good grounded gameplay. Nobody is like. I don't think people are high rolling people to the moon. Oh, you are, but like she'll definitely isn't like
Correct.
comboing to the moon while also not having to fight you. So I guess that's something. And everything does like exemplify like people's defensive capabilities if they're good at it. I'm currently testing Raver right now. I'm noticing that Shield Bash into Auto Slash doesn't work at 3-way, and that's like deeply dissatisfying. I think that's probably why when this Shield Bash was made, it was so nigh unpunishable because like he wanted it to be plus after Auto Slash if it hit, and I think that's probably the design intent.
Yeah, it
I
sure
have some
isn't a
ideas on
stat
how to
thing.
make this not so ass to fight against.
Yeah?
So
Like what?
I mean, like, obviously, we need to give it longer recovery. There's some ways to do it. There's basically thinking of it sort of like how Reva does her shield bash attack in One Step from Eden, where it basically hits like
Delayed
K wave,
shockwave?
but it doesn't have to be a whole row. It could just be one row. Doesn't have to be full column. It could just be one row, and it would hit like in K wave pat. Basically, think of it like she basically has a K wave pattern, but I'm also thinking of like one of the recent effects that he added for spell writing, and that's the end spell. So basically, it's a way. Basically, the spell just ends if that gets triggered. I don't know how that affects Anchor, but the idea would be like they cast what's it? He they shield bash, and it's like on hit it would end the spell. So basically, it's like plus 23. But the idea is that because it's hitting all the way to the end, unless if it hits, in which that they can extend however they want, they're basically stuck there until it fully casts all the way, which is basically a DP that's punishable in that sense.
That would be interesting. Different on hit frame data.
Yeah. Well,
Windfall, what do you
it would actually be the same no matter what part it hits. It's just that the distances would not be the same.
mm,
But it is that basically like she's not like immediately able to disengage the moment she hits something. And she's not immediately able to disengage immediately after casting. She's stuck there for a while because that's what DP is, right? It's supposed to be
yes.
punishable. Like if a DP is not punishable, then it's like they just cast it willy nilly. You have super armor.
Yeah.
Just have
Windfall, do
armor.
you have any thoughts on the what's it called? The gunner side of things with that?
The gunner side, I
I was
haven't
I
fought
was gonna
Shoal's
say
gunner.
you watched the
Yeah,
gameplay.
I watched it. I think for me to have like a solid like opinion on it, like I need to experience it myself probably. Just
That's
fighting
fair.
some more gunner, because I haven't fought gunner too much, in over like the past month and a half or so. So I think before I can really like collect my thoughts about that, like I need to see how it feels to fight it, see like what I can do against it, and then I think after that I'd be able to form an opinion.
That makes sense.
Mm,
Well, I
mm.
guess the only thing left to talk about is step auto.
Well, we have already, haven't we?
Have we?
I
We
remember
It
it
did
being like
list
exists?
it, but
something
we
like talking
didn't.
about like people not really learning counterplay
We brought
or
it
the
up, but
negligence
like
of it.
I do want to talk a little bit more about it, because
Oh yeah, go
it
ahead.
is just so funny seeing so many people saying you need step auto to win, and then Yuki Shizuku wins the JP tournament without step auto in his deck.
Yep. I
It
don't
is
think any of the top
hilarious.
players even had it.
It is so funny because I'm just like, you don't need it to win. There's been multiple people who have won tournaments without step slash or auto slash in their deck, and then lo and behold,
Brillo.
it happens again. Like,
Just keeps happening.
it's just step auto hate is copium, dude. Like, it's just people.
It's the
like,
only-
It is coping, dude. Like, just learn the counterplay, bro. Because the counterplay is just like when you're using auto slash and step slash, you're taking a risk, right? You get counter hit out of this all the time.
Oh yeah, they always say it's safe. They always say
Yeah,
it's safe.
they always say it's safe. I was just like, oh, it's riskless. No, the frick it isn't. It's not. Like, I counter people out of this all the time. Celicy is the most invade heavy character in the game. Guess what? Celicy is the highest risk character in the game. It's not even close.
Yes, she gets like it's
That's
rough. She's got
Celicy
it
gets
hard.
counter hit so many times it's not even funny because she does invade all the time, right? There's and then there's also the fact that if you're playing against traps and you counter hit somebody with traps, well, now you better add a mana cost onto that. Otherwise, you're about to get killed on your way back, right? So people will act like there's not counterplay and downsides, and it's just like there is though, and it's just like the upsides to invade are very good for the game because invade is very good at countering camping, and it's like
it's like the anti-camp.
With Brazil, they already removed auto slash, found out that it just makes the camping problem way worse, right? And then had to make adjustments to accommodate for that. And it's like, okay, so it's just like, I think these two spells are very healthy for the game. They're not oppressive. They do 6 damage combined, right? Because now their damage got nerfed to 6. They're still being played. Because I think that just the role that they serve just provides so much value. But it's not unfair. Because at the end of the day, you can win without these spells, right? I don't think that every character would want to remove these spells from their deck. I think that it's definitely a character dependent thing. Like, there are some characters that kind of always want to play step auto. Like, I'd always play probably auto on Dread.
I always play on VO.
And then step auto is
you have to at least run
Maple,
auto
Maple.
on her.
Yeah, like you need to be running auto on VO. Then even terrible, I like to play invade on her. But I mean, it's not necessary, and that kind of just got proven. Like that it's not necessary.
Yeah, no.
And then face roll obviously didn't run any step auto, and I have beaten an entire list of strong players with face roll,
me included.
So like it's, and then obviously we have players. Perp doesn't run step auto. Sans didn't run step auto. These
and these are players that are like long time, incredibly top level strong players that have never really used it.
Sans won
have done totally fine.
Multiple like very top level tournaments.
Effectively super majors.
Yes.
He won Exodus.
No step auto. But let's just ignore that, right?
And it's not like he won Exodus 1, which is Exodus 1 the highest level tournament there's been in terms of just not excluding ESL?
Probably. Next.
I don't think there's been a tournament of that.
Next phase may have been harder.
That they're going to be like, oh yeah, Varya does step out. It's like, bruh.
Varya is very good.
He's not
Varya's
winning
like an
because
anomaly.
auto. And then that much I can tell you, it's not step auto that's winning the game.
Yeah, Varya is an anomaly. Varya is winning because he's incredible at the game.
It's
in a
the
way
rest
that,
of the deck that's really mattering.
Yeah, the step auto is just there as like glue.
It's also like not bad for a card to be commonplace. That you could take it as in like that's something that you can reliably learn to counter. And
people hate that there's
and the gameplay loop is not even that bad. People are interacting with each other rather than camping all the time.
Which is good.
Way
That's
better.
what we want.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, like there's plenty of spells that have been viable since forever. Like Kunai has always been viable since it started getting played, right? And then Minigun has always been viable since it's always been viable, right?
Or slash 2.
Yeah, PS always been viable, right? There's nothing wrong with spells just being good. And I think step slash auto slash is just genuinely good, and there's counterplay to it, and it stops camping, and I think it's very good for the game.
I fully agree.
Yep.
I think people complaining about it generally just have skill issues. Like, there's a reason the alpha players that know how to fight it never complain about it.
It's like, bro, you think step auto's bad, dude? We fought step missiles. Get out of here. Like, you think this is bad, dude? You
OG
used to be able to
step
step
missile?
missiles, walk 10 tiles, and then kill someone.
You could do step missiles, walk Ragnarok, and I think that was really funny. Step missiles,
God,
walk twice
imagine.
Rag.
Imagine it was still rounded, and not only that, but it's like because it was 3 shots. It's like and your opponent, and of course you can dodge return. It's like you couldn't like snipe them for returning.
It was really funny. I still remember that. I still remember the night it got nerfed, or the final straw night. My bad, y'all.
Nah, it's fine.
It was.
That's why it was before release.
That's why. Yep. That's why we were testing stuff. Well, is there any other topics anyone's got to go over?
For me.
And
I
there's
think
like
that covers
tiny
everything I
things
wanted to
like
talk about.
yeah.
If you have
There's like tiny
anything,
things
I'm.
like probably like make Cloud Claw's not dead, and then like
Oh
Magnet
yeah,
Flare being
Quad
a bit
Claws
easier
got
to
murdered.
defend. These are like very small things compared to
Quad
things as
Claws
a whole.
finally put my ancient Violet deck on the ground. The Quad Claws nerf my Dark Grass Sacrifier one that still somehow hung on, which is very sad to me. That's not a deck I ever want to have to fully retire. Windfall, any other topics you can think of?
None for me at the moment, no.
Yeah, I'm good if y'all are.
Guess I'm good. I feel like I'm probably forgetting something, but that's
You want to think for a minute, go for it.
I mean, like
But I can't
I
think
guess
of anything else.
it could just also be being insatiable and this sort of thing. And then there's definitely always something to talk about, but in the end, I cannot remember everything. God, I can't even remember like Dragon's passive Hazel. Like I know it's real. I know it's really effective, but like I can't like address why, but without just saying like maybe I should have just played better. But it's like obviously it worked at that time. There's
I
something I was
think the
doing
answer
wrong.
is
I
just
couldn't
playing
analyze.
better.
Yeah, but it's like what exactly is this playing better? I guess.
I
That's
think
just
it's
how
just
long
playing
things
more
have
played.
been since like season 2 onwards, because it's like I can barely remember a lot of the things that I found was like I I need to like think about these things more because it's interesting. It's awesome. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I remember is I beat Dragon's Hazel with a few different characters. Very
Hmm.
fun times. I'm looking forward to getting to play them again in ESL because they entered. I guess we could do an ESL recap of the first 2 months, at
Is
least Code
ESL
S
like
stuff.
I don't even know if I can treat ESL as like a I mean like it is I guess it's the only competitive environment, but it feels like it's
Yeah,
falling apart.
yeah,
It's not like anything on
all.
like the TO. Like I think Greasy's doing a great job with it.
I would agree.
It's just that we ourselves are so far apart.
The community
The
sure is
whole
just
community.
not wanting to
Well, I guess all of us in that
compete as
case.
much. Hey, I'm still looking for competition where I can get it,
I like
but
playing the game. I think that's what matters the
I'm a big
most.
fan.
I
But
did have to retire regardless because I did get like surgery on my hand. It's healed. I think it's healed since, but it's hard to tell.
that's fair. No, but ESL month 1 was the Perilla month. Not much to talk about there. Codas kind of just got Perilla. It's there's not much to say. The character was broken, and now she's not. So All
I
is
remember
good in the
keeping
world.
tabs on like a few of us. I remember watching some games. It's like I remember watching someone fight against Celsi and full sweeping them. And full sweeping the Celsi, and it's like, yeah, they were playing step harder, playing like good deck, good everything. It's like you can actually be invade with footwork. Surprising, I know. Like, just
Yeah.
good, just playing
But
really
yeah,
well.
I think I'm good. I think I'm good to call it if
Yeah,
everyone else is. Good
I'm
All right.
talk.
just as ready. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Windfall, any closing statements?
in that case, it's been nice talking with you, both of you, and definitely we'll look
Yes.
forward to talking again, having another long discussion about things in the future. Um,
Eventually, yes.
Oh yeah, thinking about the future.
probably upload
Sometime
this
later for sure.
sometime tomorrow. Probably just the thing. I don't think I need to edit it. Probably just upload it straight.
I'd just
Um,
post it, yeah.
yeah. So I'll probably
Yeah,
upload this tomorrow, and that'll be up for anyone to
sounds
watch.
good.
It'll be on my channel,
It's gonna be
and
it's
yeah.
gonna be so weird when if I listen back to this and things like, wait, I miss this detail. How could I?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been nice
Oh
talking,
well.
and looking forward to the next one.
Mm.
GG's.
Yeah, GG's gamers.
See you all next time.